Hey guys, can't sleep? What time is it where you are? Midnight, 3 a.m. closer to sunrise? Well, you're in luck, because tonight we're sinking our teeth into something grim, gritty and strangely fascinating, the daily meals of the Middle Ages. No banquets, no royal feasts, just real food, real filth and a whole lot of hunger. So before we dive in, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy this kind of weird late-night storytelling, and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from, and what time is it right now? I love seeing how far these strange tales travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe light a candle for that authentic medieval vibe, and let's begin. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1345. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? So is the rat chewing on your breakfast. You're lying on a damp straw mat, your nose full of smoke and old sweat, your breath visible in the morning chill. Your stomach growls, but there's no bacon, no eggs, no coffee. You reach for a hunk of black bread, dry, cracked, maybe a little mouldy, and dunk it into a small beer, flat and slightly sour because it's safer than the stream where your neighbours wash their feet and their clothes. This is your first meal of the day, and, trust me, it only gets stranger from here. By mid-morning, hunger's a dull blade, and as noon looms, it's louder than the church bell calling the village to mass. This is dinner, the day's anchor, when you finally sit, praying for something to quiet your gut. If you're a peasant, you stumble into your hut. Its dirt floor packed hard, the air thick with wood smoke, damp thatch and the sour whiff of unwashed wool. You and your kin, wife, kids, a toothless elder muttering about lost harvests, crowd the fire, its flames licking a blackened pot. Inside simmers pottage, a grey sludge of potes, peas, lentils or barley, thickened with whatever you scavenged, turnips, parsnips, cabbage or wild nettles, their sting tamed by the boil. It's no feast, but it's hot, and after hours swinging a scythe or hauling water, it's a quiet grace. A scrap of bacon, salt sharp, maybe rancid, or a pig's knuckle flavours the broth, thin but rich with marrow's ghost. You sip more small beer from a splintered mug, its fizz cutting the pottage's heft, its taste like soggy earth. If luck's kind, there's kale, sorrel or wild garlic, their bite a fleeting spark. You eat fast, spoons clacking, sharing one pot like it's a vow, because fields, flocks and daylight don't pause. If you're a noble, dinner's a pageant. You sweep into a great hall, its rafters lost in shadow, walls adorned with tapestries, knights slaying dragons, stags fleeing hounds, vivid in torchlight. Long oak tables cloaked in linen, groan under platters of roasted venison, its fat sizzling, or a whole boar, tusks gleaming for drama. Servants dart, piling your trencher with creamy leek soup, game pies stuffed with pigeon, hare or partridge, their crusts flaking gold. Fish, eel, trout, pike or salmon swims in soused with wine, verjuice or vinegar, studded with raisins, almonds or prunes. Your bread's white soft as snow, milled fine to scorn the peasant's gritty loaf. Every dish screams wealth. Pepper, cloves, nutmeg, saffron, cinnamon, each speck worth a serf's yearly toil. Minstrels strum lutes, their melodies weaving through laughter, clinking goblets and the snap of bones. Dogs slink underfoot, snatching scraps, while your guests, knights, ladies, a bishop for clout, sit ranked by title. You're at the head, your carved chair throne-like, wife or heir beside you, lesser men at the table's end. You eat until your tunic begs mercy, each bite a banner of your power. Supper's later, as dusk cloaks the sky and candles flicker. It's lighter, softer, a moment to breathe. For peasants, you're back by the fire, embers glowing, the hut dim with smoke and weariness. You sip lentil soup, thin and earthy, its warmth seeping into your calloused hands, or crumble cheese, hard, tangy, flecked with mould, onto a crust of barley bread, baked days ago and now tough as leather. If you're clever, there's leftover pottage, cold but thick, its flavours deeper, carrots or onions, soft from the weight, perhaps a sprig of wild thyme plucked from the hedgerow. You eat slow, savouring the warmth, your bones heavy from dawn's grind, ploughing fields, hauling wood or threshing grain under a sky that never rests. The meal's not just food, it's survival, a quiet defiance against the hunger that stalks your days. Nobles, you're in the great hall, the crowd thinner now, the air soft with wine and whispers. You pick at cold meats, salted beef, ham or tongue, sliced thin and glistening with fat, a wedge of pie with spiced apples, its crust flaky and rich with suet, or fresh pears if the orchard's generous. Your wine's mulled, cinnamon and cloves curling in its steam, or hippocras, sweet and heady, poured from a silver flagon that catches the torchlight. The meal's a performance. You carve with a flourish, your knife a sceptre, while minstrels strum lutes, or a fool capers in the corner, his bells jingling. You dine with purpose, cementing alliances, rewarding loyalty, or simply basking in the glow of your own power. Every bite's a reminder of your place atop the world. Monks sup in their refectory, a stark stone room where silence reigns, broken only by a brother's scripture droning, his voice low and rhythmic like a heartbeat. You spoon barley gruel, plain but filling, or fish stew, its broth thin but sharp with dill or parsley, a gift from the monastery's pond. The meal's austere, a reflection of your vows, poverty, obedience, humility, but not without care. The fish is fresh, the herbs grown in neat rows by brother herbalist, and the bread, though coarse, is baked with a prayer. You eat in rows, your cowl shadowing your face, your hands moving with precision, spoon to mouth, no waste, no haste. The refectory's cold, its walls bare save for a wooden cross, but the meal warms you, body and soul, as you chew in time with the sacred words. Timing's not just hunger's call. The sun's your clock, its arc dictating when you eat. Peasants, you break your fast when dawn cracks the sky, dine at noon when the sun's high, and sup when shadows lengthen. No ticking hands, just the sky's slow bleed and your guts plea. Monks pace meals by prayers, matins, lauds, vespers, compline, their days a rhythm of worship and work. A bell tolls, and you file into the refectory, your stomach trained to wait. Nobles dine when it suits. Midday for dinner, the grand affair, and supper later, when the hunt's done or the court's business wanes. Your meals bend to your will, not the sun's, though you'd never admit how the harvest's yield, or its failure, shapes your table. Where you eat shapes the meal's soul. Peasants, your dining room is a cramped hut, its fire a smoky heart stinging your eyes and blackening your lungs. The floor's dirt, packed by generations, may be strewn with stale rushes, sour with ale, grease, or worse. You sit on stools, benches, or the ground, your family pressed tight, like a shared secret. The air's heavy. Sweat, leather, damp walls, and the pot's steam. Cabbage or onions mingling with the reek of livestock just beyond the door. A hen clucks in the nook, pigs snort outside, and privacy's a bard's lie. Your table's a plank, scarred and wobbly, or just your lap. You share a single spoon, passing it hand to hand, or scoop with bread, your fingers slick with broth. Every spoonful's a stand against hunger's siege, a moment of rest before tomorrow's toil. Nobles dine in splendour. Your great hall's a theatre, its walls draped with tapestries, saints, battles, unicorns, muffling the clash of pewter and silver. Long tables, clad in linen, maybe embroidered with vines or crosses, gleam with candlelight, wax dripping like tears onto the cloth. Your boots crunch on rushes, fresh with herbs or rank with spilled wine, while servants glide, filling goblets with claret or carving roasts with flourishes. Dogs weave between legs, eyes on scraps, and the room hums. Laughter, lutes, a jest, a servant's stumble. Your seats are thrown, high-backed, carved with lions or roses, central, with wife, heir, or favoured knight beside you. Guests fan out, ranked by title. Barons near, knights farther, squires at the edges, servants standing, eyes down. The hall's alive, its warmth a cocoon of privilege, every glint of silver screaming, you're untouchable. Monks, your refectory is a world apart, its stone walls unadorned, its silence a weight. The long tables are scrubbed bare, no cloth, no ornament, just wood worn smooth by years of elbows. You sit in order, eldest to youngest, your bench hard, your back straight. The room's chill seeps through your habit, but the fire's low glow, tended by a lay brother, offers a faint reprieve. No dogs, no music, no chatter, only the reader's voice weaving psalms or the lives of saints and the meal's rhythm. a nod to begin, a pause to end. The air smells of damp stone, of bread and broth, clean but austere, like the life you've chosen. Your bowl's clay, your spoon wood, your cup tin, each item a tool, not pride. You eat with care, mindful of waste, your vows a lens on every grain. The meal's meaning shifts with your role. Peasants, your supper's a bulwark, each bite a brick in the wall between you and ruin. You tell tales, old gods, local ghosts, or the miller's latest swindle to lighten the dark. Your children listen, their faces smudged, their bellies sharp as yours once were. You ration the pot, saving a ladle for tomorrow, knowing hunger's a patient hunter. Nobles, your supper's a stage, you host to impress, to bind, to dazzle. You offer a guest the choicest cut, a smile masking your tally of their loyalty. Your table's a map, who sits where, who eats what, who's rising, who's falling. Monks, your meal's a meditation, each spoonful a step toward grace. You chew slowly, tasting not just fish or barley, but the labour of your brothers, the mercy of your God. The food itself tells a story. Peasants, your pottage is a mosaic, barley, peas, leeks, whatever the field or forest yields. It's thick, stick to your ribs, simmered all day over a fire you can't afford to let die. Your bread's coarse, specked with chaff, baked in a communal oven if you're lucky, or on a flat stone if not. Cheese, if you have it, is a treasure, hoarded from summer's milking, its rind hard as wood. You drink ale, thin and sour, safer than the stream. Nobles, your table groans. Roasted swan, its feathers reattached for show. Venison in pepper sauce, dark and pungent. Custards quivering with saffron, a spice worth more than gold. Your bread's white, sifted fine, a status symbol soft as a cloud. You drink wine imported from Gascony or the Rhine, or mead, honey-sweet and potent. Monks, your fare's simple but not joyless. Herring, salted or smoked, beans stewed with garlic, apples from the cloister's trees, tart and crisp. Your drinks, water or small beer, brewed weak to stretch the grain. The act of eating binds you to the world. Peasants, you grow your food, your hands blistered from hoe and scythe, your back bent from sowing to reaping. You know the cost of every bean, every onion, every frost or drought that thins your pot. Nobles, your food's a tribute, hauled from your lands or bought with your coin. You hunt for sport, your hounds and hawks earning their keep, but your table's bounty comes from others' sweat. Monks, you till your gardens, your vows tying you to the earth as much as the altar. Your fish ponds, your orchards, your beehives, they're your prayers made flesh. Each harvest a hymn. Supper's end leaves echoes. Peasants, you bank the fire, its embers a promise of tomorrow's warmth. You sleep close, your family a tangle of limbs on a straw pallet, the hut's walls creaking against the wind. Nobles, you linger, wine in hand as servants clear the wreckage, bones, crusts, spilled sauce. You retire to your solar, its bed draped in furs, your mind on tomorrow's hunt or court. Monks, you file out, silent to compline, your stomach full, your heart quiet. The refectory's empty, its tables wiped, ready for dawn's next offering. Wherever you are, supper's more than food, it's time, place, people, woven tight, a thread in the tapestry of your days. Monks eat in a refectory, a long, bare room where silence is law. You sit on plain benches, a wooden bowl before you, while a brother reads psalms, a saint's life, or hellfire's warnings. The air's cool, stone walls damp, smelling of wax and mildew. Your meal's half prayer, each bite measured, no chatter to break the spell. You don't linger, you eat, bow, and shuffle to your cell or scriptorium, God's words still echoing. Your tools are sparse. Forks, a whispered myth, toyed with in Byzantine courts. You've got a wooden spoon, its handle worn to silk, and a knife, your shadow, tucked at your belt, sharp for meat or tavern brawls. Your hands do the rest, scooping stew, tearing bread, pinching cheese, grease coating your fingers like armour. Plates are rare. You use a trencher, a thick slice of stale bread, cut square, catching drips and soaking sauce. When done, you might eat it, its flavour rich with juices, or toss it to the poor, dogs or pigs. If sharing, it's a wooden platter, everyone digging in with spoons or fingers. A messy waltz. Nobles might flaunt pewter or silver, but even they share. hands slick as yours. The table mirrors your place. Peasants, your table is a wobbly board on trestles, a stone slab by the hearth or the dirt floor. You sit on stools, benches or a log, eating fast before sheep stray or the reeve calls. Nobles, your table's a monument, solid oak draped in linen, maybe fringed or stitched with gold. Pewter goblets, silver plates, candlesticks with dragons or saints catch the light. Your chairs carved, lions, roses, your crest set at the head, wife or heir beside you, guests ranked, servants at the edges. Every fold of cloth, every gleam, says, you're above. The taste medieval food doesn't whisper, it roars. Salt's emperor, caking meat to fend off rot or masking mutton past its prime. Vinegar bites, its sour snap waking sauces or stews. Fat, lard, suet, butter, dripping, coats your tongue, rich, heavy, carrying flavours deep. Herbs, sage, parsley, garlic, thyme, lovage. Fight to make boiled roots or cabbage sing, their green tang a brief joy. Spices are the crown. Pepper, cloves, nutmeg, saffron, cinnamon, ginger, each grain worth your cloak, cow or hut. They're not just taste, they're power, hiding off smells or burning wealth on a bite. Sweetness is a ghost, honey's warm, floral, but a jar costs a month's labour. Sugars for lords, hauled from distant lands, sprinkled like diamonds. Your meals might stun. Venison in vinegar, cabbage with rose petals, porridge with raw egg or dried fruit. There's eel in honey, pork with saffron, bread in spiced wine, peacock in plum sauce. It's not always good, but it's never tame. Each bite a dare to your tongue and nerve. What you eat cleaves by class, a gulf wider than a moat. Peasants, your days are a grim march of sameness. Dark bread, rye, barley, maslin is your rock, dense, chewy, gritty with millstone dust or sand. You pair it with pottage, a mush of oats, peas, lentils or barley, thickened with turnips, leeks, carrots or swedes, maybe nettles or dock. Boiled greens, kale, sorrel, spinach add colour, their bitterness a nod to lean days. Meat's a fever dream, a sliver of bacon, salt sharp, a rabbit you trapped or a fish perch, roach, its bones a maze. A pig's knuckle or ox bone flavours broth, marrow a faint echo. Small beers your pulse dawn to dusk, its fizz safer than water. Taste like wet straw. Seasons rule, summer brings herbs, berries, garlic, winter's dried beans, pickled roots, prayers for spring. You eat daily, grateful for anything that fills, even if it defeats flavour. Nobles swim in excess. Your table's a war of plenty, piled with roasted meats, venison, pork, boar, lamb, their juices pooling. There's creamy leek, almond or onion soup, game pies crammed with pigeon, hare, partridge or quail, crusts gold. Fish, eel, trout, pike, salmon, sturgeon glides in, sauced with wine, verjuice or vinegar, studded with raisins, almonds, currants. Whole swans, peacocks, herons, cranes, roasted and redressed in feathers, strut for applause, beaks gilded, eyes glass. Every dish is art. Saffron for gold, parsley for green, cochineal for red, spices for glory. Your bread's white, soft, milled fine to mock the peasant's loaf. Fruit, apples, pears, quinces, cherries, figs add sweetness, while desserts, custards, tarts, spiced cakes, marzipan seal the feast. You drink wine, claret, malmsey, Rhenish or hippocras, sweet, spiced or ale, strong, frothy from silver horns. Meals stretch hours, each course a flex. Spices, gilded pastries, fruit carved into ships or saints. You eat until you stagger, wealth in empty platters. Savoury rules. You dig into cold meats, beef, ham, tongue, brawn, thick soups of barley, onions, peas, chestnuts, or stews heavy with carrots, parsnips, leeks, swedes, cabbage. Meat pasties, pies stuffed with pork, pigeon, eel, rabbit, hedgehog, a greasy, portable forgiving of mystery fillings. They're loved, ploughmen in fields, knights on hunts, merchants at fairs, eaten hot or cold. Fish grilled, poached, fried, baked, stars on fast days, eel a hero, its oily flesh a Lent loophole. Herrings, cods, sprats, mackerel, salted or smoked, crunch in coastal towns, tang sharp. Savoury pancakes, thin, crisp, fried in lard, carry herbs, parsley, sage or onions. Cheese, bacon sopped in broth or plain. Porridge, thick with oats, rye, spelt, hides bacon scraps, dried apples, herbs, its warmth a balm. Sweet dishes are jewels. Honey cakes, dense slabs of flour, honey, ale, are chewy, spiked with cinnamon, cloves, ginger or fruit, raisins, dates, prunes, figs if flush. They're baked for feasts, weddings, bribes, stickiness a trap for fingers or flies. Turnip pie, mashed, sweetened with honey, rosewater, currants. Ape's dessert, it's a brave try. Dried fruits, figs, dates, prunes, raisins, apricots, are chewy, sugary, hoarded, stolen by kids. Sweetness summer in a shrivel. Candied fennel seeds, sugar-crusted licorice sharp or anise, double as breath fresheners, crunch a molar's gamble. Candied peels, orange, citron, lemon or ginger, sticky, fiery, are noble treats, sugar a nod to trade. Pancakes swing sweet with honey, fruit syrup, rosewater, a rare joy. Sops in wine, toasted bread in mulled spiced wine, cloves, cinnamon, are a lord's dessert, spooned slowly. Warmth a lullaby. Spices, ginger, nutmeg, saffron, mace, turn sweets into boasts. Snacks bridge meals, a wild crew. Apple fritters fried in pig fat are your donut, golden, crispy, scalding, with tart apples buried in batter of flour, eggs, ale. They're street food stars, grabbed at fairs, markets, churchyards, grease staining your tunic as kids, dogs, crows eye your prize. A fritter's bliss. Crisp edges, soft centre, dusted with honey or sugar, sweetness a break from cabbage. Cheese curds, fresh, squeaky, are simple, soft, rubbery, chewy, eaten by handfuls while ploughing or trading. They're baby cheese, pressed, salted, tang a comfort, loved by monks, kids, travellers. Blood pudding balls, fried orbs of oats, suet, pig's blood, are dense, iron-rich, bold, delicious if you skip the origin, a fairground hit. Crisp shell hiding soft, earthy core, spiced with pepper, sage. Honey cakes, small, sticky or candied fennel seeds, sugar-crusted, herbal, offer the rich, freshening breath or flaunting coin. Candied anise, coriander, caraway join, crunch a noble's tic-tac, spice a digestive nudge. Dried fruit, raisins, figs, dates, prunes, apricots, cherries, stick to teeth, tastes summer, chew a workout, sugar a lord's hoard. Bread, soaked in ale, mushy, warm is peasant comfort. Bitter, soft, stopped by crust. Sops in wine, toasted bread in spiced wine. Nutmeg, saffron are noble. Spooned slow, warmth a hug. Fried eel, crispy, bony, rich, or fish skin crackling, salty loud are tavern snacks. Ocean tang trailing. Eel's fast day king, skin crackling, flesh tender. Cracklings, herring, cod, crunch like leaves. Smell shouting from huts off. Fried dough stuffed with cheese or fruit. Pops at fairs grease a sin. Roasted chestnuts, smoky or hazelnuts cracked by firelight, are winter's nibble, earthiness, a joy. Feasts and holy days crack the grind. On Christmas, Easter, Whitsun, Saints' days you eat big. Spiced wines, richer breads, pies stuffed with meat, fruit, custard, marrow. Peasants snag pork, goose or sweet bun, dough soft, flecked with currants, a hug. Nobles roll banquets lasting days. Dishes as ships, castles, saints. Poets reciting, jugglers tossing apples. Lent upends no meat, so fish, eel, herring, cod, pike or eggs. Yolks rich, monk's craft, cheesecake of turnips. Honey almond milk stews, vegetable pies with saffron. Fast days spark wit, fish soups with dill. Bean porridges with garlic, pancakes with herbs, each a church dodge. Noble feasts are marathons. Roasted crane, spiced custards, fruit as peacocks, peasants savour cheese, strong ale, honeyed apple, hidden from kin. Mental health distilled from custards, hidden from kin. Drinks weave their own epic, a lifeline as vital as bread. If you're a peasant, small beer's your blood, a watery barley brew faintly fizzy, safer than the filthy streams where cattle wade and laundry soaks. Its taste is flat, like damp grain or sodden straw, but it's life. Sipped from clay mugs, wooden bowls or hollowed horns passed hand to hand. You drink it from dawn to dusk, kids and elders too. Its low alcohol a gentle hum, not enough to blur but enough to ease the day's grind. At feasts or taverns ale takes the stage, stronger, frothier, its malt warm and nutty, maybe spiked with bog myrtle, yarrow or wild rosemary for a bitter kick. Brewed in village vats or abbey cellars, it's poured from jugs, its foam a fleeting crown, its taste a rare comfort, like a fire's glow on a winter night. You guzzle it at weddings, harvests, or wakes, its buzz loosening tongues and fists. Water's a gamble, rivers carry mud, waste or worse, so you shun it, trusting beer to keep you hale. If you're desperate, you might boil stream water with herbs, but it's a chore, and the taste of mint or chamomile barely masks the murk. Nobles drink with flair, their cups a stage for wealth. Wine's their muse, claret's deep red, Rhenish's crisp white, Malmy's golden sweet, hauled from Bordeaux, the Rhine, or sun-blazed Mediterranean ports, in oak casks ringed with iron, their voyage a testament to power and reach. To drink well is to speak the language of the empire. You raise pewter goblets, cold and solid in hand, or cradle a silver chalice so heavy it makes your wrist ache with privilege. Some even sip from Venetian glass, delicate, translucent, a whisper of wealth with every tilt. The rim hits your lips and you're partaking in politics, not thirst. Wine is rarely plain. It's mulled in winter, heated until the hearth's fire stirs its heart, with cinnamon sticks as long as fingers, cloves pungent enough to tingle your nose, ginger that bites at the back of your throat, and nutmeg shaved like secrets into the simmering red. Steam curls upward like incense, and the scent alone makes your chest feel warm. Honey thickens it, gliding over your tongue like velvet, while a pinch of pepper kicks like a rogue's dagger, reminding you that everything sweet has its edge. You don't just drink wine, you compose it. After banquets, when the laughter softens and meat-slick plates lie bare, you reach for Hippocras, wine filtered through spice-soaked cloth, saffron the colour of royalty, cardamom sharp as rumour, and mace like powdered fire. Its colour gleams like amber caught in torchlight. This isn't refreshing, it's a legacy. You sip it slow, letting its heat and sweetness wind together like a ballad of conquest. Hippocras closes a feast the way a curtain closes a play, with applause and sometimes with whispered betrayal. Then there's mead, rare, golden, honey-fermented and older than wine itself. It's reserved for the grandest tables, weddings where dowries are tallied like war spoils, coronations where loyalty is paid in cups, or Christmas feasts where monks grow tipsy and kings remember mercy. It comes in jugs carved with lions or saints, vines or beasts, poured with reverence. One sip, and it's like drinking from the roots of the earth, sweet, slow, deep. Mead doesn't shout, it hums, low and ancient, like a bard in your bones. It isn't just a drink, it's a memory poured into a cup, a promise made of sugar and time. And when you raise it, surrounded by banners and smoke, the world feels distant and your power absolute. Milk's for the weak, babies, kids, or the sick. It's fresh from cow, goat, or ewe, but often sours fast, its tang sharp in wooden pails. Peasants might drink buttermilk or whey, byproducts of cheese or butter, their sour bite a jolt. Sipped from bowls or stirred into pottage for body. Nobles rarely touch milk, save in custards or possets, milk curdled with wine or ale, spiced with nutmeg. A bedtime soothe. Water, when drunk, is a last resort, drawn from wells or springs if you're lucky, but even then you boil it or mix it with wine to blunt its risks. In monasteries, water's a penance, sipped on fast days to humble the flesh, its chill a reminder of sin's weight. Children eat simpler, their meals shaped by need and class. Peasant kids get bread, dark, coarse, often stale, and pottage, thinned with water or whey, maybe flecked with herbs or a carrot's orange shard. Milk or curds, if the cow's generous, are a treat, spooned from bowls or smeared on crusts. Their creaminess a small joy between chores, fetching water, herding geese or gleaning fields. Meals are small but frequent, snatched on the run, a crust tucked in a pocket or a handful of berries plucked from a hedge. Noble children dine apart, in nurseries or lesser halls. Their plates softer, white bread fine as linen, poached eggs with runny yolks, stewed apples or pears, or custards kissed with honey or rosewater. Spices are light, cinnamon, maybe saffron, gentle on young stomachs but still a flex of wealth. They sip diluted wine or milk, served in tiny silver cups. Their meals a lesson in privilege, though tantrums over eel sauce are universal. Monks' novices eat lean gruel of oats or barley, fish stew on fast days, bread hard as penance. Portions are tight, Hunger a tutor in humility, their bowls wooden, their spoons blunt. Babies nurse, if mothers can, or get pap. Bread or flour soaked in milk, ale or honey, mashed to mush, fed by spoon, finger or cloth teat. It's a fragile start, each swallow a gamble with life's early odds. Pockets and travel twist your plate, breaking the day's rhythm. At fairs you weave through crowds, bells clanging, vendors shouting over minstrels and livestock. Stalls hawk fritters, pasties or cracklings, their grease hot, steam rising in the crisp air. You grab an apple fritter, its crust scalding, or a meat pasty, its filling a mystery of pork or pigeon, eating as you dodge pickpockets or gawk at jugglers. Fish cracklings crunch loud, their salt stinging, while roasted chestnuts, split and smoky, warm your hands. You pay a penny or barter a turnip, the food gone fast, its heat a shield against the market's chaos. Travellers carry less. Bread hard as wood, cheese wrapped in cloth, dried fish or fruit, maybe a sausage, its fat rancid but filling. You eat by roadsides, perched on stones or under oaks, dust from passing carts coating your crust, waters chanced from streams, its taste muddy, or you sip ale from a flask, its leather warm from your belt. Pilgrims lean on faith, begging alms at monastery gates, bread, ale, a fish scrap or gruel, served hot or cold, their hunger a holy weight. Soldiers trudging through mud or siege get salt beef, tough as boots, hard biscuits that crack teeth, or peas boiled to mush in campfires. You eat cold under canvas or stars, the taste grim, hunger sharper than swords, but it fuels you to the next march or melee. Storage is a relentless foe, shaping every bite. Peasants, you hoard grain in woven sacks, hung from rafters to dodge rats, or buried in clay-lined pits to thwart damp. Roots, turnips, carrots, swedes, pile in cellars, their earth still clinging, while onions and apples hang in braids, their pungence warring with mould's creep. Cheese, hard and crusted, sits in lofts, or wrapped in nettles, mice gnawing at rinds, their droppings a bitter tax. Meat preserved, salted pork, smoked mackerel, dried beef, its flavour sharp, texture like wood, each slice a knife's labour. Bacon hung in chimneys, drink smoke, its salt a sting against rot. You guard it all, slicing green bits from bread, skimming mould from cheese, or boiling soured ale into vinegar stew. Waste is a sin, every crumb a prayer against winter's bite. Nobles have stronghold, pantries, ice houses, spice chests locked like treasure. Saffron, sugar or peppercorns sit in ivory or silver, their keys at the steward's belt, while wine casks and venison haunches fill cellars, their cool a lord's smug shield. Monasteries rival them, their larders vast, vats of ale, wheels of cheese, barrels of salted herring or cod, sacks of spelt or rye, all tallied by a monk's quill. Spoilage haunts even them, bread moulds, cheese sweats, fish turns, but they're disciplined, eating scraps before rot wins, their thrift a vow. Cooking in the medieval world was no mere task, it was an art, brutal and alive, a primal dance of fire, sweat and survival that pulsed at the core of every life, from the humblest serf to the grandest lord. It was a craft forged in the crucible of necessity, shaped by the rhythms of the earth and elevated by human ingenuity. In your kitchen, whether a smoky peasant hut, a chaotic noble hall, or a monk's austere refectory, was a battlefield, a temple, a laboratory where raw elements became sustenance, culture, and power. Each flame you coaxed, each pot you stirred, each loaf you shaped was a testament to your place in the world, a thread in the intricate tapestry of medieval life. The act of cooking was not just about feeding the body, it was about claiming your existence, weaving your story into the heartbeat of your community, and defying the ever-present spectre of hunger, scarcity, and time. For peasants, your hearth was a fickle god, its flames both life-giver and tormentor, spitting acrid smoke that stung your eyes and blackened your lungs, or faltering under the drip of rain through a thatched roof. The cauldron, pitted and charred by generations, was your altar, suspended over the fire on a chain or propped on stones. Into it went pottage, the backbone of your existence, a thick, earthy sludge of oats, barley, peas or lentils, simmered all day until onions softened to silk, greens wilted into submission, and a precious bone or rind of bacon lent a whisper of depth. You stirred with a wooden spoon, its handle worn smooth by your mother's hands and her mother's before, your movements slow and deliberate to stretch the meagre fuel. Wood was a treasure, each log a day's labour in the forest. Peat or dung, when wood ran scarce, burned with a sour reek, their heat grudging. You learned to nurse the fire, banking embers to last through the night, every spark a prayer against cold and hunger. Bread was another wrestle, its dough kneaded on a scarred plank, your knuckles aching as you pounded life into the coarse flour of rye or barley, specked with chaff. If you were lucky, you shared a village oven, its fire a weekly tax of coin or kind, the heat a communal pulse where neighbours jostled and gossiped. If not, you baked in your hearth, the loaf nestled in ash, its crust charred with a bitter edge, its crumb dense and chewy, a shield against the gnawing want that stalked your days. You roasted roots, turnips, parsnips, or small fish on sticks over the flames, their fat flaring in brief, glorious bursts. Or stewed wild herbs in ale, the pot a smoky alchemy that transformed the forest scraps into sustenance. Every meal was a triumph, each spoonful of pottage a defiance of the lean seasons, each crust a bond with the kin who crowded your hut, their faces smudged with soot and resilience. Nobles' kitchens were battlefields on a grand scale, vast and chaotic, their high, vaulted roofs lost in a haze of smoke, their stone floors slick with grease and spilled wine. These were domains of noise and heat, where cooks wielded knives like swords and shouted orders over the clang of pots, the hiss of spits, and the roar of fires that never slept. Spits turned slowly, groaning under the weight of whole oxen, boars or swans, their fat dripping into pans below, collected for sauces or basting, each drop a currency of flavour. Cauldrons bubbled with soups, stews or sauces, their contents a symphony of vinegar, wine, mustard and herbs, verjuice sharpened with sorrel, pepper ground fine as dust, or cloves costing more than a serf's yearly wage. Cooks, their faces flushed and sleeves rolled, darted between tasks, stirring, tasting, carving, their hands scarred from burns and blades. Brick ovens glowed like forges, baking pies with flaky crusts, or pastries stuffed with minced venison, dates or almonds, each dish a chessboard of flavours, a calculated move to dazzle the Lord's guests. Some dishes were gilded with edible gold, others sculpted into fantastical shapes, swans refeathered, castles of pastry, or subtleties moulded from sugar to mimic saints or crests. These were labours of hours, days, even weeks, a cook's war waged not for survival but for praise, their success measured in the Lord's nod or the guest's gasps. The kitchen was a hierarchy, from the master cook, a general of flavours, to the scullions scrubbing pots, their hands raw from lye. Every dish was a campaign, each feast a conquest, the noble's table a stage where power was plated and served. Monks cooked with a precision that bordered on the sacred, their kitchens a quiet counterpoint to the clamour of noble halls or the desperation of peasant huts. In the refectory's shadow, you worked with measured care, your movements a liturgy, your ingredients a testament to humility and discipline. Stews of barley or beans simmered in clay pots, their broth clear and sharp with dill, parsley, or lovage from the cloister's herb garden. Gruel, plain but filling, was stirred with a wooden ladle, its consistency exact, a balance of sustenance and restraint. Bread, baked in stone ovens, was coarse but wholesome, its crust scored with a cross, each loaf a prayer kneaded into being. Fish, herring, cod or trout from the monastery's ponds appeared on fast days, poached in vinegar or stewed with leeks, a dance with church law that forbade flesh. Your herbs and spices were used sparingly, not for ostentation but for health, their properties studied in herbals copied by your brothers in the scriptorium. Fuel was your wealth too, wood or charcoal stacked high in sheds, tended by lay brothers who saw the fire as a gift from God. Your cooking was a silent hymn, each chop of the knife, each stir of the pot, a meditation on obedience and grace. The refectory, with its bare walls and long tables, was your cathedral, where meals were eaten in silence, a reader's voice weaving psalms or saints' lives, each bite a step towards salvation. Your food was simple, yet it carried the weight of your vows, a reminder that Even in austerity, the act of eating was a communion with the divine. Your meals were the heartbeat of your world, each bite a thread in the intricate weave of your existence, a declaration of who you were and where you stood in the medieval cosmos. For peasants, your pottage was grit and grind, a daily slog of oats, peas, turnips, or whatever the field or forest yielded. It was no delicacy, yet it was yours, earned by the sweat of your brow, the mud caked under your nails, the cunning that stretched a single pig's knuckle across a week. Each spoonful was a defiance of want, a stand against the hunger that lurked in lean winters or failed harvests. Your bread was a wrestle, its crust hard as despair, its chew a labour that bound you to the kin who shared your fire, their faces lit by the same embers, their hands passing the same cracked bowl. You ate not just to live, but to endure, to claim your place in a world that offered little mercy. Your meals were a ritual of resilience, a quiet vow that tomorrow's dawn would find you still standing, still stirring, still alive. Nobles, your feasts were conquests, each dish a crown, each course a map of your dominion. Saffron, its threads red as blood and dearer than gold, scented your sauces, a testament to your trade routes stretching to distant lands. Swan, roasted and redraped in its feathers, or peacock, its tail fanned like a jewelled banner, graced your table, their grandeur a mirror of your own. Spiced wine, mulled with cinnamon and cloves, steamed in silver goblets, its warmth a war on scarcity, a declaration that your wealth could bend nature's limits. Your table was a throne, its linen cloth embroidered with vines or crosses, its candles dripping wax like tears of light. Your guests were vassals, their seats ranked by title, their loyalty measured in the compliments they paid your cook. Each bite was a seal of power, each course a strategy, alliances forged over venison, rivalries buried in custard, ambitions whispered over almond tarts. Your feasts were theatre, your hall a stage where you played king, conqueror, god, every dish a stroke of your sceptre, every flavour a claim to eternity. Monks, your gruel was a prayer, each spoonful a step toward grace, its simplicity a mirror of your soul. Barley, fish, or beans, stewed with herbs from your garden, filled your clay bowl, their flavours clean and unadorned, a rejection of the world's vanities. You ate in silence, your cowl shadowing your face, the refectory's stone walls echoing only the reader's voice, reciting scripture or the lives of saints. Each mouthful was a meditation, a reminder of the labour that brought it to your table, the brother who tilled the soil, the sister who gathered nettles, the God who gave the rain. Your meals were not for pleasure but for purpose, a sustenance of body and spirit, a discipline that tethered you to your vows. The refectory was your cloister, its austerity a sanctuary where the act of eating became a sacrament, each bite a whisper of eternity, each pause a bow to the divine. Cooking, in all its forms, was the medieval world's alchemy, transforming the raw into the sacred, the mundane into the profound. For peasants, it was survival, each pot a fortress against hunger, each fire a spark of hope. For nobles, it was power, each feast a battlefield where status was won or lost, each spice a trophy of conquest. For monks, it was worship, each meal a ritual of humility, each flavour a note in a hymn to God. Your kitchen, whether a smoky hut, a roaring hall, or a quiet cloister, was a microcosm of your world, its challenges and triumphs distilled in every simmering pot. The act of cooking was a dialogue with the earth that yielded your grain, the fire that demanded your vigilance, the kin or comrades who shared your table. It was a labour of love, of necessity, of defiance, each dish a story of who you were and what you fought for. Your meals were more than food, they were identity, community, faith. Peasants, your pottage was a chronicle of your fields, your seasons, your struggles, its flavours a map of the land you tilled. Nobles, your feasts were a ledger of your wealth, your alliances, your ambitions, their grandeur a mirror of your soul's reach. Monks, your gruel was a testament to your vows, its simplicity a ladder to the divine, its silence a song of surrender. You ate to live, yes, but you ate to claim your place, serf, lord, or god's clay, in a world where every bite was a battle, every table a throne, every hearth a hearthstone of the human spirit. Imagine yourself tomorrow, thrust into the medieval world, a spoon in hand, a fire before you. Who would you be? A peasant, scooping pottage by a smoky hearth, your family pressed close, the hut alive with the creak of wood and the cluck of hens. Your meal is plain, yet it is yours, a hard-won victory over the earth's indifference. Each bite, a vow to rise at dawn and fight again, or a noble, picking at a gilded peacock under chandeliers of wax, your hall ringing with lutes and laughter, your guests watching your every move. Your feast is a crown, each dish a jewel, each sip of spiced wine a toast to your untouchable power. Or perhaps a monk, spooning barley gruel in a refectory's silence, your brothers' faces shadowed by cowls, the reader's voice a thread to eternity. Your meal is a prayer, each bite a step toward God, each pause a surrender to grace. Whoever you are, your meal is your world, its flavors your story, its fire your soul. Chew slow, for the Middle Ages spare no one, bold or meek, and every bite is a claim to your place in the great unending feast of life. The ancient art of dream interpretation. In the ancient world, Mesopotamia stood at your crossroads of mystery and mythology, and nowhere was this more evident than in how you viewed dreams. To you, a Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, or Babylonian, a dream wasn't just a private, fleeting experience, it was a divine telegram, a supernatural message sent directly from the gods to your subconscious. Ignoring it was like leaving a message from Enlil unread, perilous. By around 2500 BCE, you had developed a sophisticated system of dream interpretation, etched on clay tablets in cuneiform script. These weren't mere bedtime curiosities, they guided your statecraft, medicine, and religious rituals. As a king, you might delay wars if a troubling dream hinted at bad omens. As a farmer, you wouldn't plant crops if you saw a goat soaring across the sky in your sleep. Your world was always speaking, and it was your duty to listen with your eyes closed. As a professional dream interpreter, a Baru priest, you were the ancient equivalent of a Freudian analyst, minus the couch. You trained in libraries of omen texts, like the Ishkar Zak, an intricate dream manual that categorized dreams and their meanings with sometimes absurd but eerily precise logic. Did you dream of eating dates? That was a good omen. Did you see your teeth falling out? Brace for death in the family. Did you dream of intimacy with a goddess? Well, congratulations, you were either divinely favored or cursed with hubris. Your dream books didn't guess meanings. They presented cause and effect as if dreams were equations. A equals B. A snake in your dream? Expect betrayal. Falling from a rooftop? A lawsuit looms. Your dream world was logical, but it operated on divine logic, far stranger than your human reason. But you didn't stop at interpretation, you practiced dream incubation too. If you were a ruler seeking divine guidance, you might sleep in a temple, under sacred conditions, fasting, cleansing rituals, perhaps offering incense, and await a revelatory dream. You believed certain environments strengthened the divine connection, making visions clearer and less likely to feature drunken goats. For you, the dream world wasn't a puzzle to solve, it was a realm to navigate with caution, reverence, and a vast library of clay tablets. You believed the gods were always speaking. You just had to be asleep to hear them. In ancient Egypt, your dreams weren't mere nightly occurrences, they were sacred texts in motion. You believed dreams were messages from the gods, ancestors, or even your own Ka, your spiritual double. Every dream, good or bad, carried intent. It could warn, bless, instruct, or terrify you. By the New Kingdom, circa 1550-1070 BCE, you began recording interpretations in some of history's earliest dream manuals. The Ramesside Dream Book, written on papyrus and found in Deir el-Medina, was your divine diagnostic tool, listing hundreds of dreams and interpreting each as favorable or disastrous. The logic wasn't always intuitive to you. If you saw yourself eating crocodile flesh in a dream, it meant you'd become a high official. Strange? Yes, but in your Egyptian cosmology, the crocodile was tied to Sobek, embodying strength and power. Eating crocodile meant absorbing divine traits, a promotion-worthy omen. Each entry in your dream book began with, "if you see yourself," followed by a symbolic scenario. These weren't guesses. They drew from centuries of ritual knowledge, personal visions and temple tradition, marked as good or bad in red and black ink. If your dream was bad, you'd light incense and seek a priest's intervention. As a priest in temple complexes serving healing deities like Serapis or Thoth, you offered dream incubation, where you'd sleep in the temple to receive guidance or healing through visions. You purified yourself, prayed, and slept intentionally to open a divine channel. This wasn't superstition to you. It was healthcare, divination, and theology in one night's rest. Your dreams influenced magic and medicine. You might wear amulets to fend off recurring nightmares or perform rituals to erase a dream, treating it like a curse. For you, the sleeping mind wasn't idle. It was a stage where gods, demons, and the dead could appear, offering glimpses into hidden truths, if you had the wisdom and a priest to decode them. In the ancient Greek world, your dreams were more than divine whispers. They were clinical appointments with the gods. You practiced incubation, sleeping in temples to receive healing visions, especially at Asclepia, temples of Asclepius, the god of medicine. From Epidaidros to Pergamon, if you were sick, hopeful, or desperate, you sought cures through sleep, sacred, intentional, and under spiritual conditions. You purified yourself by bathing, fasting, or sacrificing an animal before lying on a stone bed in the temple's abaton, awaiting the god's appearance in your dream. Your results, inscribed in ancient testimonies, were remarkable. You might dream of Asclepius touching you with his staff or snakes slithering over you, waking healed, or believing you'd received divine instructions. Whether real, psychosomatic, or placebo-driven, the effects were profound. As a Greek physician like Hippocrates, you valued dreams in diagnosis. You didn't dismiss them as nonsense. You believed your body revealed its state through symbolic visions. A dream of flowing water might suggest kidney issues. Being crushed could point to a chest ailment. You classified dreams as natural or divine. Natural dreams stemmed from diet, digestion, or stress. Divine ones were messages from the gods or cosmos. You didn't just rely on priests. As an urno-ritus, a dream reader, you roamed public squares using dream manuals, omens, and interpretive flair to translate dreams into warnings, blessings, or instructions. You revered the Urno-Rita Critica by Artemidorus of Daldis, a 2nd century CE masterpiece still studied centuries later. For you, the dream was a bridge between mortal and divine, body and soul, illness and healing. If you were lucky, you'd wake with a cure and perhaps a snake at your feet. Your prophetic dreams carried unmatched weight. As a Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Greek, or beyond, you saw them as sacred transmissions from a higher plane, linking you to gods, fate, or the cosmos. In the ancient Hebrew tradition, you recognized prophetic dreams as divine communication. You knew Joseph, who dreamt of sheaves bowing before his own, foretelling his rise. Later, you saw him interpret Pharaoh's dreams of fat and thin cows, predicting Egypt's economic fate, making him a national strategist. As a Mesopotamian king, you received dreams foretelling victory, disaster, or divine favor. You, like Ashurbanipal, claimed the gods guided you in war and governance through dreams, proving your divine legitimacy. As a Greek, you distinguished enhypnia, subconscious dreams, from oneiroi alithinoi, truth-revealing dreams. Before founding a city, declaring war, or launching a voyage, you consulted dreams or interpreters. You revered the onirai, winged spirits carrying divine messages. Even as a pragmatic Roman, you took prophetic dreams seriously. You heard Augustus dreamt of glory, and Scipio Africanus foresaw victory over Hannibal. Your prophetic dreams were tools of power, instruments of policy, and proof of divine selection, shaping nations and empires with visions in the dark. In Anatolia, your dream healing thrived in Hittite, Phrygian, and Greco-Roman traditions, with temples dedicated to divine contact through sleep. You worshipped Men, the Phrygian lunar god, in hilltop temples facing the night sky, catching lunar messages in your dreams. If you suffered ailments, spiritual unrest, or uncertainty, you practiced incubation, hoping for curative or guiding visions. Your process mirrored Asclepian practices, but had unique twists. You walked labyrinthine paths or slept beneath celestial carvings, believing sacred geometry-focused divine messages. You used music, incense, and chant to tune your mind to the divine. You didn't sleep for rest, you slept for spiritual reception. As a dream priest, you guided and interpreted visions, sometimes seeding dreams with suggested imagery. If you sought a vision of your future child, you might sleep with a fertility idol, dreaming of a lion for a brave son or rain for a wise daughter. As a Hittite royal, you received strategic advice, healing knowledge, or warnings in dreams. You might adopt a foreign goddess into your shrine based on a dream, an act of divine diplomacy. Your dream incubation was communal and cosmic, forming healing communities bound by shared hope. To you, dreaming was an act of ritual participation, where healing and prophecy flowed from the silent language of sleep. By the 2nd century CE, you, as Artemidorus of Daldis, systematized dream interpretation in the Ionaro Critica, a 5-book tome filled with thousands of dream scenarios. You approached dreams with scholarly precision and psychological curiosity, collecting accounts from sailors, merchants, prostitutes, and soldiers. You believed understanding a culture's soul meant listening to its dreams. You organized dreams by actions, animals, professions, and relationships. Flying in your dream? Freedom or arrogance? Naked in public? Shame or power, depending on your class? Teeth falling out? Loss, often of relatives? You emphasized context. Your status, gender, and circumstances shaped the meaning. A wealthy man's shipwreck dream meant business trouble. A poor man's, new fortune. You, as Artemidorus of Daldis, delved into the intricate language of dreams, recognizing their use of symbolism, metaphor, and irony to convey hidden truths. A dream of death didn't always foretell an end. It could herald renewal, a shedding of the old to embrace the new. A dream of intimacy might not reflect mere desire, but could signify dominance, guilt, or even a struggle for power within your waking life. Your Ionaro Critica, a monumental work of dream interpretation, was not a fleeting curiosity, but a guiding text revered across the Roman and Byzantine worlds. Its influence stretched far beyond your time, shaping medieval dream interpreters who pored over its pages and inspiring Arabic translations that carried your insights into new lands. For you, a dream was not just a fleeting vision, but a complex text to be studied, a puzzle to be decoded, not only for prophecy, but for profound insight into the strange, shadowed corners of the human mind. You saw dreams as mirrors of the soul, reflecting fears, hopes, and truths that daylight often obscured, inviting you to explore the depths of your own existence. Not all your dreams were divine gifts, radiant with celestial wisdom. Some were terrors from the depths, haunting visions born of restless spirits, malevolent demons, or the shadowy underworld. These nightmares weren't mere disturbances to you. They were omens, warnings, or punishments, woven into the fabric of your sleep. As a Babylonian, you learned to distinguish dreams sent by benevolent gods from those tainted by malevolent forces, the polluted visions that sowed fear, illness, or dread in your heart. When such a dream gripped you, perhaps one of being pursued by a snarling demon, you sought a priest skilled in apotropaic rituals. You might participate in cleansing spells, offer sacrifices to appease the divine, or burn cedarwood incense to banish the lingering malice. Sleeping with a protective amulet under your pillow, inscribed with sacred symbols, became your shield against the unseen threats that haunted your nights, ensuring the gods' protection as you ventured back into sleep. As an Egyptian, you held a deep reverence for the power of nightmares, believing they could stem from malicious entities, demons, restless dead, or envious spirits seeking to unsettle your soul. To guard against these, you adorned yourself with amulets bearing the Eye of Horus, its piercing gaze a ward against evil, or images of Bez, the fierce yet protective dwarf god who stood sentinel over households and dreamers alike. When a nightmare clung to you like a curse, you recited dream-erasing spells, ancient incantations designed to dissolve the vision's power before it could manifest in your waking life. These rituals were as vital as medicine, for you saw nightmares as contagious forces, capable of crossing the boundary between the dream world and reality. Your priests, trained in the sacred arts, guided you through these practices, ensuring your sleep remained a sanctuary rather than a battleground. As a Greek, you perceived nightmares as more than mere disturbances. They were messages from the chthonic deities, Hades, Persephone, or the vengeful Erinyes who dwelled in the earth's depths and spoke through your dreams. These visions signaled divine displeasure, unpunished crimes, or imbalances in the cosmic order that demanded your attention. A nightmare of being trapped or pursued might warn you of a moral failing or a debt to the gods left unpaid. You, as Plato, saw the dream itself as a battleground where reason clashed with appetite, where the untamed desires of your soul could unleash chaos in the form of terrifying visions. A nightmare to you was a mirror of an imbalanced soul, urging you to restore harmony through philosophy, discipline, or ritual. You approached these dreams with both fear and reverence, knowing they carried truths as weighty as those delivered by the Olympian gods. As a Roman, you carried a practical yet profound fear of certain dream symbols: owls hooting in the night, snakes coiling in your path, or wolves prowling the edges of your vision. To you, these were omens of death, betrayal, or impending war, signals that the fabric of your world was fraying. You believed the dead could visit you in dreams, their spectral forms delivering warnings, accusations, or pleas for remembrance. A dream of a departed ancestor might urge you to honor their memory with offerings, lest their unrest bring misfortune. Your nightmares were not just personal fears, they were cosmic red flags, vivid reminders that the seen and unseen worlds were inextricably linked. Even in sleep, you could not escape the threads of fate that bound you to the divine, the dead, and the eternal forces shaping your destiny. To you, every nightmare was a call to action, a demand to restore balance or heed the warnings whispered in the dark. Your dreams were political assets. As a ruler, priest, or general, you used dreams to justify decisions, sway opinion, or consolidate power. When the gods spoke in your sleep, you declared, "They spoke to me." As Alexander the Great, you dreamt of our moon welcoming you as a son, confirmed by the Siwa oracle, solidifying your divine rule. As Augustus, you dreamt of victory at Actium, immortalized in literature and coins. Your priests and oracles used dream interpretation as a theological tool, aligning with your interests. A rebellious governor's disastrous dream? Divine punishment. A dream of victory? Time to launch a campaign. As Queen Hatshepsut, you proclaimed that the god Amun foretold your birth in a divine dream, a vision that solidified your legitimacy on Egypt's throne. By sharing this sacred narrative, you wove your rule into the fabric of divine will, silencing doubters in a world where pharaohs were expected to be men. As Daniel, you stood before Nebuchadnezzar, unraveling his dream of a towering statue with feet of clay, foretelling the rise and collapse of empires. Your interpretation wasn't mere guesswork, it was a geopolitical prophecy that shaped the king's policies and cemented your influence. Your dreams were more than fleeting visions, they were allegories of power, tools to declare, "This is the will of heaven." Whether born of divine inspiration or crafted as masterful propaganda, your dreams transformed the subconscious into a stage for statecraft, where the gods' whispers became your commands. Your ancient temples may have crumbled, their altars swallowed by centuries of dust and wind, but the legacy of your dream interpretation endures, a golden thread woven through the fabric of time, binding humanity's past to its present and future. In the shadowed halls of Sumer, Egypt, and Greece, you stood as priest, seer, or scribe, gazing into the visions of sleep with a reverence that saw no boundary between mortal and divine. Your obsession with symbols, snakes coiling through moonlit fields, rivers swelling with blood, or birds soaring above silent cities, was born in those sacred spaces, where dreams were not mere flickers of the mind, but portals to truths beyond the waking world. Sleep was a journey, a descent into the underworld, or an ascent to the gods, and you, with your clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, or whispered incantations, were its guide. Your interpreters, draped in linen or robed in wool, served as bridges between the mortal mind and the eternal, decoding the language of omens, terrors, and prophecies. The shadowy dread of nightmares, the fleeting joy of visions, the recurring motifs of falling or flight, these were not random, but stories, signals, shadows cast by forces greater than yourself. Your ancient frameworks, from the dream books of Artemidorus to the oracles of Dodona, pulse still in science, psychology, and culture, their echoes haunting every restless night. In the ancient world, your dreams were not fleeting shadows cast by a weary mind, but sacred texts, etched in the ineffable ink of the divine, each vision a missive from realms beyond the mortal veil. Sleep was no mere pause in the rhythm of life, it was a pilgrimage, a descent into the underworld or an ascent to the heavens. where gods, spirits, and ancestors whispered truths too profound for waking eyes. You stood at the edge of this liminal space, priest, seer, scribe, or supplicant, your heart a vessel for the mysteries that unfolded in the quiet of night. Your dreams were not yours alone, they were threads in the tapestry of your community, your gods, your fate, binding the individual to the collective, the ephemeral to the eternal. A king's nightmare could herald war's shadow over the land, a farmer's vision of swelling rivers could promise fields lush with grain, and you, as interpreter, bore the weight of these omens, your words shaping destinies. With stylus, papyrus, or whispered chant, you guarded the threshold of sleep, decoding its symbols. Lions roaring under starless skies, stars plummeting like tears, or rivers running red with foreboding, knowing each was a message from the cosmos, a fragment of the divine will. In Mesopotamia, you knelt in the dust before Nanshe, goddess of prophecy and dreams, her presence a quiet hum in the ziggurat's shadow. Your hands, calloused from labour or smooth from scholarship, offered barley or incense, their smoke curling upward like prayers, a plea to unravel the vision that left you trembling at dawn. Perhaps you dreamed of a serpent coiling around a throne, its scales glinting like bronze, or a city crumbling into ash beneath a blood-red moon. These were not idle fancies, but urgent dispatches from the divine assembly, where gods like Enlil or Inanna weighed the fates of mortals. You sought the dream priests, their eyes deep with wisdom, their voices low as they recited incantations from clay tablets, their surfaces etched with cuneiform signs. These tablets, the world's first dream books, catalogued visions with meticulous care. A falling star for loss, a soaring eagle for triumph, a broken reed for betrayal. You trusted their guidance, knowing a misinterpreted dream could invite calamity. A harvest lost, a battle doomed, a life undone. Your sleep was a sacred act, each night a journey to the edge of existence, and you, with your offerings and rituals, stood as both pilgrim and sentinel, navigating the delicate boundary between the seen and unseen. In Egypt, you walked the torch-lit corridors of Serapis's temples, their walls carved with lotus blooms and the unblinking eyes of Horus, the air heavy with myrrh and mystery. You were a supplicant, perhaps a merchant seeking fortune, a mother praying for a child's fever to break, or a general haunted by visions of defeat. You lay on a stone bed, its surface cool against your skin, in the temple's dream chamber, a sanctum designed to summon God-sent visions. Sleep here was incubation, a deliberate act of surrender to the divine, your body an offering, your mind a canvas for Serapis or Isis to paint their will. You hoped for a dream of healing, a radiant figure laying hands upon your wounds, or of guidance, a path through desert sands to an oasis of truth. You woke at dawn, your heart pounding, and sought the dream priests, their linen robes whispering as they listened to your tale, a crocodile rising from the Nile, its jaws agape, or a falcon circling a golden sun. They consulted their scrolls, their voices steady as they interpreted. The crocodile a warning of hidden foes, the falcon a promise of divine favour. Your dreams were communal property, their meanings woven into the fabric of Egypt's life, from the pharaoh's visions of flood or famine to the farmer's hope for rain. You left the temple lighter, your soul tethered to the gods, knowing sleep had drawn you closer to eternity. In Greece, you climbed the winding steps to Asclepius's sanctuaries, nestled in groves where olive trees whispered with the wind and springs bubbled with sacred waters. Your heart pounded with hope, perhaps for a cure to a wasting illness, clarity for a troubled mind, or wisdom for a choice that loomed like a storm. You purified yourself in ritual baths, your skin tingling with cold, and offered honey cakes or a white cockerel to the god of healing. In the Abaton, the sacred dormitory, you lay on a pallet of straw or wool, the air thick with the scent of burning herbs and the murmurs of other dreamers. Sleep was a communion, a moment when Asclepius or his daughters, Hygeia, Panacea, might visit, their forms shimmering in the half-light of your vision. You dreamed, perhaps, of a serpent gliding across your chest, its tongue a flicker of warmth, or of the god himself, his eyes kind but piercing, prescribing a herb or a pilgrimage. You woke, breathless, and shared your dream with the priests, their bearded faces nodding as they deciphered its meaning. The serpent, a symbol of renewal, the prescription, a path to wholeness. Your dreams were not private, They were oracles, shared with the sanctuary's community, recorded on stone inscriptions that stood as testaments to Asclepius's power. You left the sanctuary changed, your body or soul touched by the divine, your sleep a bridge to the god's embrace. Your role as interpreter was a mantle of immense responsibility, whether you were a Babylonian Baru, an Egyptian Lector Prish, or a Greek Oniropoulos. You stood at the crossroads of worlds, your mind a crucible where mortal fears and divine truths met. You scratched symbols onto clay tablets or papyrus, noting the lion that roared in a dreamer's mind, the star that fell like a warning, the river that flowed with milk or blood. Each image was a glyph in the language of the cosmos, a puzzle to be solved with care. Your tools were not only observation but intuition, honed by years of study, prayer, and communion with the divine. You knew a lion could mean courage, danger, or a king's wrath, depending on its gaze or the dreamer's life. A star's fall might herald death, but its rise could promise glory. You wove these symbols into narratives, offering guidance that could calm a trembling heart or steer a nation's course. Your interpretations were not guesses, but acts of translation, rendering the divine's cryptic script into mortal words. You bore the weight of this trust, knowing a misstep could unravel lives, yet you stood firm, your voice a beacon in the dream's twilight. Your Nero Critica, penned by Artemidorus of Daldis in the 2nd century CE, was a monument to this ancient wisdom, a codex that distilled centuries of dream lore into a single work. Its pages were a map of the human soul, cataloguing dreams by theme: love, death, travel, animals, gods, weather, with a precision that rivaled the star charts of astronomers. You, as Artemidorus, walked the markets of Ephesus, listening to sailors, merchants, and slaves recount their visions, your quill capturing the universal and the unique. A dream of teeth falling might foretell loss for a rich man, but shame for a poor one. A vision of flying could mean freedom for a slave, but hubris for a lord. You saw dreams as mirrors, reflecting not only the dreamer's life, but the archetypes that bound humanity. The lover's yearning, the warrior's fear, the mother's hope. Your Nero Critica was no mere manual but a philosophy, asserting that sleep was a sacred threshold, a space where the veil between worlds grew thin. You wrote for posterity, knowing your words would guide interpreters long after your bones had turned to dust, and indeed they did, carried through the centuries by scribes, scholars, and seekers. Your belief in the sanctity of sleep was unshakable. It was not rest, but revelation. A liminal space where the mortal and divine danced in delicate balance. You saw the night as a temple, its darkness a sanctuary where the soul could wander free, unshackled by the body's demands. Your rituals, offerings of grain, libations of wine, chants to gods or spirits, were acts of preparation, cleansing the mind for its nocturnal journey. You stood guard at sleep's edge, your incantations a shield against malevolent spirits, your prayers an invitation to benevolent ones. You knew dreams could deceive, twisted by demons or the dreamer's own fears, yet you trusted their core-held truth. A nightmare of drowning might reflect a heart weighed by guilt. A vision of flight might signal a soul yearning for transcendence. You saw sleep as a mirror, a crucible, a loom where the threads of past, present, and future were woven into meaning. Your interpreters, from the humblest village seer to the grandest temple priest, were weavers too, their words stitching the dreamer's vision into the fabric of life. Your legacy in the ancient world was not confined to temples or tablets. It was a living tradition, pulsing through the lives of all who slept. In villages you gathered by hearths, sharing dreams over bread and beer, your elders nodding as they offered insights drawn from oral lore. In palaces you counselled kings, your voice steady as you warned of omens or promised victories glimpsed in sleep. In markets you bartered interpretations for coin or favour, your stall a hub of whispers and wonders. Your dreams shaped rituals, from the sacrifices offered to avert a nightmare's curse to the festivals sparked by a vision of abundance. They guided decisions, from a farmer's choice to sow or wait to a general's plan to march or hold. They bound communities, as shared dreams of gods descending or skies aflame became stories told to children, etched into songs or carved into stone. Your sleep was a communal act. Its visions are shared language, its meanings a collective quest for truth. As you stood at the threshold of sleep, you felt the weight of this ancient tradition, its roots deep in the earth, its branches reaching toward the stars. You were not alone. You were part of a lineage, a chain of dreamers and interpreters, stretching back to the first human who woke trembling from a vision and sought its meaning. Your chants, your tablets, your rituals were acts of devotion, not only to the gods, but to the mystery of the human mind, its capacity to see beyond the horizon of waking life. You knew sleep was a gift, a doorway, a dialogue with forces greater than yourself. And as you closed your eyes each night, you surrendered to its embrace, trusting that the dreams awaiting you were not random, but sacred, not chaos, but cosmos. Not silence, but a symphony of the divine, forever whispering truths to those who dared to listen. As centuries turned, your legacy flowed through the medieval world, carried by scholars who saw your dreams as lanterns in the dark. Islamic philosophers, from Al-Kindi to Ibn Sirin, translated your Oniridica into Arabic, their meticulous scripts preserving your insights for mystics, poets, and caliphs. In bustling Baghdad, you, as a scholar, pored over these texts by lamplight, guiding rulers through visions of conquest or warning of betrayal hidden in a dream's metaphor. Your work shaped the House of Wisdom, where dreams were studied alongside stars and medicine, each a facet of divine order. In Christian monasteries, you, as a monk, recorded the dreams of saints and martyrs, their visions of angels or demons echoing your ancient reverence for the divine message. You saw dreams as God's voice, foretelling miracles, martyrdom, or judgment, and your quill-scratched parchment late into the night, preserving tales of radiant crosses or fiery wheels in the sky. From the deserts of Arabia to the cloisters of Europe, you carried forward the belief that dreams were not chaos but cosmos, a sacred narrative woven by powers beyond the mortal coil. The 19th and 20th centuries saw your ancient wisdom reborn in the crucible of science and psyche. You, as Sigmund Freud, stood on the shoulders of your temple priests, recasting their divine omens as the language of the subconscious. In Vienna's gaslit studies, you argued that dreams unveiled repressed desires, buried fears, and forbidden longings. Your psychoanalytic lens transforming gods into instincts, oracles into complexes. Yet your method, decoding the metaphor of a cigar, a staircase, or a locked door, was theirs, a secular hymn to the same belief that dreams held hidden truths. Your interpretation of dreams was a modern Oreniro Critica, its pages filled with case studies that echoed the cuneiform tablets of Babylon, a patient's nightmare of wolves mirroring a Sumerian vision of beasts, a dream of flight recalling an Egyptian ascent to the stars. You, as Carl Jung, delved deeper, plumbing the collective unconscious for archetypes, heroes, tricksters, wise elders, mothers and shadows, as vivid as the figures you once met in temple visions or glimpsed in the glyphs of your ancestors. Your dreams were not personal but universal, a shared reservoir of myth where the hero's journey or the trickster's laugh resonated from Uruk's ziggurats to Zirak's clinics. You saw the psyche as a temple, its dreams the murals painted across its walls, each symbol a story older than stone. Modern neuroscience, with its gleaming probes and humming MRI scanners, honors your intuition in ways you could scarcely imagine. You stand in sterile labs, watching as scientists map the brain's dance during REM sleep, their screens glowing with neural sparks that trace the birth of dreams. They study lucid dreaming, where sleepers seize the reins of their visions, echoing your ancient shamans who walked between worlds. They probe trauma's grip, how nightmares replay horrors in loops, confirming your belief that dreams mirror both body and soul. You see studies of sleep's role in memory, emotion, and healing, each finding a nod to your conviction that the sleeping mind is no idle wanderer, but a weaver of meaning. Your researchers speak of theta waves and amygdala flares, yet their quest to understand why we dream, what our visions mean, is yours, born in the flicker of campfire tales and the hush of temple rites. You marvel at their tools, yet smile at their questions, knowing they tread the same path you walked millennia ago, seeking the voice of the mind in the silence of sleep. Your legacy thrives in the pulse of culture, where dreams shape stories, fears, and hopes. In horror films, you see nightmares you once exorcised with amulets or prayers, now conjured on screens, monsters lurking in fog, houses that breathe with malice, mirrors reflecting truths too terrible to face. You recognize the terror of being chased, the weight of paralysis, the dread of teeth falling. Motifs as old as your clay tablets. In dream journal apps you find the echo of your oracles, their sleek interfaces promising self-discovery through the logging of nightly visions, a digital shrine to your ancient quest for meaning. In literature you hear your voice in Kafka's surreal metamorphoses, in Borges's labyrinthine dreams, in Morrison's haunting visions of memory and loss. In music, you feel the pull of dreams in lyrics that speak of flying, falling, or waking with a stranger's face. Your pop culture keeps your flame alive, reminding a world of algorithms and screens that the sleeping mind remains a wilderness, untamed and profound. Your ancient conviction endures, unshaken by time. What you see in sleep is never random. It is a story, a signal, a shadow cast by gods, ancestors, or the depths of your own soul. You lie in bed tonight, your eyes heavy, and feel the weight of this legacy. Your dreams are not yours alone. They are a chorus, sung by the priests who chanted in torchlit halls, the scholars who scribbled in medieval scriptoria, the analysts who listened in leather-bound offices, the scientists who watch your brain's quiet storms. Each vision, whether a fleeting glimpse of a loved one lost, a labyrinth you cannot escape, or a sky ablaze with stars, is a thread in the tapestry of humanity's search for truth. You wake at dawn, your heart racing from a dream you cannot fully recall, and the question lingers, timeless and haunting. What is your sleeping mind trying to say? You reach for a notebook, a phone, or simply the silence of your thoughts, and begin to unravel the mystery, knowing you walk a path trodden by countless others, from the sands of Egypt to the cities of today. Your dreams are a bridge across millennia, a whisper from the eternal, a reminder that the mind, in its deepest repose, speaks a language older than words, forever seeking, forever yearning, forever dreaming. The founding of the Pony Express, 1860. In the mid-9th century, you'd find yourself in a United States stretching to its limits, a nation sprawling across a vast and untamed continent. By 1860, California had been a state for a full decade, yet to you it would feel like a distant cousin, far removed from the bustling East. You'd walk the crowded streets of eastern cities, where telegraphs buzzed and railroads clattered, connecting people with a speed that felt almost miraculous. But, out west, you'd face a frontier that was rugged, remote, and achingly disconnected. Sending a letter from New York to San Francisco would test your patience, taking 3 to 4 weeks, if it arrived at all. You'd curse the storms, bandits, or endless delays that could stretch the journey even longer. The mail system would frustrate you with its inefficiencies, ships lugging letters down the Atlantic, across the fever-ridden Isthmus of Panama, then up the Pacific coast, battling tropical diseases and logistical chaos. Or you'd rely on stagecoaches crawling overland, their wheels sinking into muddy trails, stalling in snowbound passes, or dodging attacks from outlaws in hostile terrain. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a crisis threatening the nation's unity. You'd sense the federal government's growing unease, fearing that California, so isolated, might drift away in spirit or loyalty, especially as whispers of secession grew louder in an already fracturing country. Keeping the nation whole wasn't just a hope, it was a desperate necessity. You'd hear bold ideas circulating among entrepreneurs and visionaries, each vying to bridge the continental divide. The boldest of all? A central relay system, harnessing the West's vast open land and the fastest horses you could imagine. Picture yourself watching skilled riders, maybe even you among them, galloping across the continent in relentless shifts, swapping horses every 10 to 15 miles, to slash delivery times from weeks to a mere 10 days. It would sound like madness. A 2,000-mile route from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California, cutting through mountains, deserts, rivers, and territories so wild they were barely mapped. You'd face scorching heat by day, freezing nights, and the constant threat of ambush by bandits or worse. The risks would loom large in your mind: heat stroke, hypothermia, or a stray arrow. But if it worked, you'd help forge the fastest communication line between East and West. You'd feel the weight of a nation expanding faster than its infrastructure could handle, and you'd sense the mix of desperation, ambition, and raw frontier daring driving this audacious plan. Saddle up, because you're about to witness the birth of the Pony Express, a legend galloping into history one hoofbeat at a time. The Pony Express wouldn't just appear out of the dust, it would spring from the minds of three ambitious businessmen you'd come to know well: William H. Russell, Alexander Majors, and William B. Waddell, partners in a Missouri-based freight and stagecoach firm. You'd see them as seasoned players in the overland shipping game, hauling government supplies and freight across the untamed frontier. But in 1860, they'd set their sights on something far grander, and you'd feel the weight of their audacious goal: to speed up mail delivery to California in the shortest time humanly possible. If you were Russell, you'd be driven by more than patriotism. Financial scandals and failed ventures would have tarnished your name, and you'd see the Pony Express as your shot at redemption, a way to restore your reputation and secure a lucrative federal mail contract. You'd admire Major's ironclad discipline, his meticulous planning shaping every detail of the operation. He'd have you swearing oaths against drinking and cursing, demanding a level of professionalism that felt almost military. You'd help build stations every 10 to 15 miles for horse swaps, with larger home stations every 75 to 100 miles for rest and rider handoffs, all organized with precision. Waddell, the quieter partner, would have you poring over ledgers, ensuring the venture didn't collapse under its own weight. Together you'd pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into this gamble, buying over 400 horses, hiring more than 80 riders, and constructing roughly 190 stations across the most remote corners of the frontier. You'd feel the stakes: financially reckless, logistically insane, but with the potential to etch your name into American history. Without a dime of government funding, you'd launch the service in April 1860, driven by sheer grit and a belief in the impossible. You'd sense the pulse of a nation yearning for connection, and you'd be ready to race against time and terrain, knowing the Pony Express was about to change everything. Creating the Pony Express route would feel like building a fragile lifeline across a continent, with no margin for error and danger at every turn. You'd tackle a 2,000-mile stretch from St. Joseph, Missouri, to Sacramento, California, through landscapes that would test your resolve: rolling prairies, jagged mountain ranges, blistering high deserts, and treacherous river crossings. To make this wild idea work, you'd set up 190 relay stations, each spaced 10 to 15 miles apart, the distance a horse could gallop at full speed before exhaustion set in. Every 75 to 100 miles, you'd find a home station where you could rest, eat, and pass the mail to a fresh rider, keeping the relay moving like clockwork. The horses, over 400 of them, would be your lifeline, chosen not for beauty but for raw speed and endurance. In the east, you'd ride fleet-footed thoroughbreds across open plains. In the rugged west, you'd trust compact Mustangs to carry you through mountains and deserts. These were the Ferraris of the frontier, and you'd leap from one to another in seconds, barely pausing to catch your breath. You'd man stations that were often little more than sod huts or rickety shacks, though some were fortified with barbed fencing and guarded by station keepers armed with rifles. You'd haul supplies, water, feed, food across desolate lands months in advance, knowing every station had to be ready. The weather would be your relentless enemy. You'd battle snowstorms in the Sierra Nevada, sandstorms in Utah's deserts, and scorching summer heat on Nebraska's plains. Wild animals would keep you on edge: wolves prowling at night, rattlesnakes lurking in the brush, mountain lions stalking the high passes. Bandits and outlaws would eye your mailbags, knowing some carried gold dust or money orders. Tensions with Native American tribes, especially during the 1860 Paiute War, would make every rider gamble, with stations burned and riders ambushed. Yet, you'd make it work. With riders swapping every 75 to 100 miles, and fresh horses every 10 to 15, you'd see mail fly across the continent in as little as 10 days, a feat that would leave you awestruck. You'd feel the pride of stitching together a nation, one galloping hoofbeat at a time, knowing you were part of a logistical miracle born of courage and sweat. On April 3, 1860, you'd stand in St. Joseph, Missouri, surrounded by a buzzing crowd at the Pikes Peak stables, your heart racing as the Pony Express launched. You'd cheer as a rider, likely Johnny Fry, though records are murky, slung a leather mochila mail pouch over his saddle and thundered westward at breakneck speed. Cannons would boom, the crowd would roar, and you'd feel history spark to life. That 20-pound mochila, packed with letters, newspapers, and telegrams bound for California, would carry your hopes for a connected nation. You'd know a telegraph message from Washington, D.C. was riding with you, a symbol of technology meeting human grit. At the same moment, you'd hear of a rider galloping east from Sacramento, launching the two-way relay across 2,000 miles of wilderness, 190 stations, and some of the harshest terrain North America could throw at you, all to be crossed in just 10 days. You'd gallop at full speed, swapping horses in under 2 minutes, slipping the mochila's locked pouches over the saddle horn without a second's delay. You'd push for 10 miles per hour, even in pitch-black night, through rain, snow, or hostile territory. Against all odds, you'd succeed. The first mail would reach Sacramento in 9 days and 23 hours, a triumph that would have you reading newspaper headlines with pride, calling it a miracle of modern communication. You'd feel the weight of the Pony Express's legend taking shape, not just delivering mail, but proving a fractured continent could be united. You'd sense the thrill of possibility, knowing you'd helped shrink the vast West with every gallop, making the impossible feel within reach. As a Pony Express rider, you'd be the beating heart of this daring venture, a wiry teenage daredevil defying nature, war, and wilderness to deliver the mail. At 16 or 18, weighing under 125 pounds, you'd be built for speed, not strength. You'd answer a call for young, skinny, wiry fellows willing to risk death daily, maybe even an orphan, though the ad's exact wording might be more legend than fact. You'd ride 75 to 100 miles per shift, swapping horses at every station, never stopping until you handed off the mochila to the next rider. You'd gallop through torrential rain, blinding snow, or scorching heat, often at night, with only a revolver or rifle for protection. Speed would be your shield, outrunning bandits or hostile attacks would be your best defense. You'd ride alone, relying on your wits to escape trouble, your heart pounding as you scan the horizon for danger. You might become a legend like Pony Bob Haslam, who rode 380 miles in 2 days through a Paiute uprising, arrows piercing his flesh. Or young William Buffalo Bill Cody, whose tales of riding at 15 might bend the truth but capture the job's raw drama. You'd navigate the Rockies, cross the Great Basin Desert, and brave territories where a single misstep could mean freezing, drowning, or vanishing without a trace. Yet, you'd deliver, with astonishing reliability. Only one mochila ever lost in 18 months. You'd earn $100, 0 cents, to $150, 0 cents a month, a small fortune for a teenager, and you'd revel in the thrill, the speed, the sense of purpose. You weren't just carrying mail, you were weaving a nation together, galloping into myth with every stride, your courage etching your name into the frontier's story. For 18 unforgettable months, you'd prove no frontier was too wide to cross. Riding for the Pony Express wasn't just a job, it was a daily gamble with death. You'd face a gauntlet of perils that would make most turn back, yet as a teenage rider you'd press forward through nature's fury, armed enemies and a land that seemed determined to swallow you whole. You'd brave blizzards in the Sierra Nevada, where snow could bury trails and freeze you to the bone. You'd endure blistering heat in Nevada's deserts, your throat parched and your horse faltering. Thunderstorms would turn dirt paths into muddy quagmires, threatening to bog you down or sweep you away in flooded river crossings. A slip in freezing weather could mean hypothermia. A wrong move in a swollen river could drown you. And you'd know many came perilously close. Wolves might chase you under moonlight, their howls chilling your blood. Rattlesnakes could strike from trailside brush, and mountain lions might stalk you through high passes. Bandits and bushwhackers, knowing your mochila might hold gold dust or money orders, would lurk in wait, often outnumbering you. Your revolver would feel small against their odds, and stopping could cost you your life and your mission. Tensions with Native American tribes, especially during the 1860 Paiute War, sparked by broken promises and settler encroachment, would make every ride a roll of the dice. You'd hear of stations burned, station keepers killed, and riders ambushed. You'd recall Pony Bob Haslam's legendary 190-mile gallop through hostile territory, wounded by arrows but refusing to stop. Even isolation would haunt you. Hours alone with only your horse, your gun, and the endless dark. A broken leg, a lame horse, or a missed station could leave you stranded, lost forever in the wilderness. Yet, you'd ride on. Mail might be delayed, but it was rarely lost. You'd survive, though some didn't, with only a handful of riders killed in 18 months. The Pony Express wasn't a romantic tale, it was a brutal reality you lived, proving that courage and determination could tame even the wildest terrain, one delivery at a time. For those 18 months, you'd see the Pony Express reshape the nation in ways you could hardly imagine. In a country teetering on the edge of civil war, desperate to feel unified across its vast expanse, you'd prove that distance didn't have to divide. Before you rode, letters took weeks to crawl from the East Coast to California, leaving political decisions, business deals, and personal news outdated by the time they arrived. But with you galloping, mail reached San Francisco in just 10 days. You'd watch Californians sync with the rest of the nation. Merchants grew bolder, striking deals with newfound speed. Newspapers printed fresher stories, keeping readers informed. Families felt closer, their letters carrying love across the miles. Most critically, you'd help the Union feel stronger, a vital lifeline as the Civil War loomed. You'd know the federal government relied on you to keep the West within reach, especially as President James Buchanan tracked California's pulse in the tense months before Lincoln's election. You'd lay the foundation for transcontinental infrastructure. Your stations would become future hubs for railroads, telegraph lines, and stagecoach routes. You'd feel the nation's pride swelling as newspapers turned you into instant heroes, young men dreaming of taking your reins and galloping through danger. You'd embody the frontier spirit, speed, sacrifice, courage, making a sprawling, fractured nation feel like one. You didn't just deliver mail, you delivered hope, connection, and the promise of a united future, one gallop at a time. But you'd know, deep down, that the Pony Express was doomed from the start. No horse, no matter how fast, could outrun a wire. Just 2 days after you launched in April 1860, construction began on the Transcontinental Telegraph, a coast-to-coast system that would send messages in minutes, not days. You'd watch the telegraph poles creep westward from Missouri and eastward from California, each mile a step closer to your end. By October 24, 1861, the final wire would be strung and the telegraph would go live. That same day you'd carry your last letter, the sound of hoofbeats drowned out by the rhythmic click of Morse code. Even before the telegraph, you'd have seen the Pony Express bleeding money. Russell, Majors and Waddell poured over $700,000, 0 cents into the operation, recouping only a fraction, with no federal subsidy to offset the costs of horses, riders, stations and supplies. We find Morbius as a story about hope, grit, valor, courage, and the stately winds of an icy 800. It was never a sustainable business, just a bold proof of concept, a gamble for a mail contract that never fully materialized. You'd hear whispers of Russell's financial scandals and the company's collapse, the weight of failure pressing down. Yet you'd feel no bitterness. You'd proven that rapid coast-to-coast communication was possible, paving the way for the telegraph and beyond. You'd move on to other frontier jobs, driving stagecoaches, scouting, or ranching, while your stations were abandoned or repurposed. The horse gave way to the wire, just as the wire would later yield to radio, satellites, and the internet. For one brief, shining moment, you'd captivated a nation. A teenage rider conquering time and distance with nothing but grit and a galloping heart. In a mere 18 months, you'd carve your name into the mythology of the American West, your hoofbeats thundering into a legend that would outlast the prairies you crossed. The Pony Express was no mere business venture. It was a blazing comet of heroism, speed, and the raw, unyielding spirit of the frontier. You, a lone rider, would become a symbol etched into the nation's heart, silhouetted against a crimson sunset, leather mochila slung across your shoulder, six-shooter at your hip, galloping through a wilderness that bowed to no one. Your story would unfold in dime novels, their pages dog-eared by children dreaming of adventure. In Hollywood films, where your shadow loomed larger than life. In school textbooks, where your name became synonymous with courage. You were not just a courier, but a beacon of sacrifice, unity, and the relentless will to connect a nation stretched across a continent's vastness. Names like Pony Bob Haslam, who rode through blizzards and ambushes, and Buffalo Bill Cody, whose Wild West shows spun your tale into a global saga, would become frontier immortals, their exploits, real or embellished, carrying your legacy to millions. Statues would rise along your trail, from Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California, their bronze hooves frozen in mid-stride, as if still racing against time. Highways and bike paths would trace your routes, winding through plains and mountains, while reenactments and museum exhibits would keep your story alive, each display a shrine to your fleeting glory. The U.S. Postal Service would issue stamps in your honor, their vivid designs capturing the dust and daring of your rides. But your legend endures for a deeper reason. You raced against nature's wrath, blizzards, floods, bandits, and beasts, proving that communication once demanded not just skill, but a heart pounding with raw courage. In a world of instant messages, satellites, and global networks, you stand as a reminder that connection once required sweat, muscle, and a defiance of the impossible. Your hoofprints, etched into the earth, remain indelible. No telegraph wire or railroad track could ever erase the mark of your gallop. You carry this legacy forward, knowing the Pony Express was more than a fleeting venture. It was a testament to the human spirit's refusal to be bound by distance or danger. You recall the nights you rode beneath a canopy of stars, the sky so vast it seemed to swallow you whole, the wind a sharp whip against your face as you urged your horse onward. Each hoofbeat was a pulse, each mile a prayer, your breath mingling with your mount's as you pushed through darkness, doubt and doubt. You remember the weight of the maquila, its 4 locked pouches, heavy with letters, love notes from wives to soldiers, orders from Washington to frontier forts, dreams of gold seekers and homesteaders staking their futures on a new coast. That weight was trust, a sacred charge to deliver not just paper but hope, ambition, and the fragile threads of a nation striving to be one. You'd feel the burn in your thighs, the ache in your shoulders, the cold seeping through your boots as you rode through snow-dusted passes or sun-scorched deserts. Yet you rode on, driven not by pay or glory, but by something deeper. A belief that no mountain was too high, no river too wild, no night too dark to keep you from your destination. You'd linger in the memory of the camaraderie that bound you to your fellow riders. Young men, some barely past boyhood, who shared your fire. At home stations, ramshackle outposts of wood and sod, you'd swap stories over tin mugs of bitter coffee or slabs of salt pork, your laughter a shield against the fear that haunted the lonely stretches. You'd hear tales of narrow escapes, a rider dodging arrows in a canyon, another outrunning a wolf pack under a blood-red moon. You'd nod, knowing the truth behind the bravado, the way your heart raced when shadows moved on the horizon or when your horse stumbled on a hidden rock. The station keepers, grizzled men with eyes like flint, were your anchors, men like Jack Slade, half-legend himself, who kept the relays running with a mix of grit and menace, their rifles always loaded, their lanterns burning through the night. They'd hand you a fresh horse, its breath steaming in the dawn, and you'd swing into the saddle, the mochila's leather warm from the last rider's hands, and gallop into the unknown once more. Your rides were stitches in the fabric of a young America, each mile pulling east and west closer, weaving a nation from scattered dreams. You rode through a land untamed, past buffalo herds that shook the earth, through sagebrush plains where the wind sang of freedom and peril, over mountains that dared you to turn back. The risks were relentless. Paiute warriors defending their lands, blizzards that buried trails, rivers swollen with spring melt that could sweep horse and rider away. Yet, you rode on, knowing your gallop was more than a job. It was a defiance of the wilderness, a declaration that no distance could sever the bonds of a people determined to be one. Even as the telegraph's wires began to hum, their clicks outpacing your hoofbeats, and as railroads started to snake across the plains, you knew your brief chapter had rewritten the story of the West. You'd shown a generation what speed could mean, what courage could achieve, what unity could forge. You'd inspired poets to pen odes to your daring, painters to capture your silhouette against fiery skies, and dreamers to chase horizons they'd never seen. Your legacy is not just in the trails you blazed, but in the spirit you ignited. You were the Pony Express, a fleeting, furious race against time that proved a nation could stretch across a continent and still hold fast. You'd think of the children who read of your rides, their eyes wide with wonder, imagining themselves in your saddle. You'd see the ranchers, miners, and settlers who heard of your exploits and believed the West was not a barrier, but a promise. You'd feel the weight of every letter you carried, each one a thread in the tapestry of a nation finding its voice. The Pony Express lasted only 18 months, from April 1860 to October 1861, but its echo reverberates through time. You'd walk the trails today, now highways, bike paths, or quiet dirt tracks, and see your shadow in the dust, hear your hoofbeats in the wind. You'd visit museums where your mochila rests behind glass, its leather cracked but proud, or stand before statues where your horse rears forever, its bronze heart still racing. You'd smile at the reenactors, their boots kicking up the same dust you once did, their voices shouting, "Pony Express!" as if time could be outrun. As you raise your eyes to the horizon, you know your story endures not because it was long, but because it was bold. You were the spark that lit the imagination of a nation, the proof that courage could conquer even the wildest frontier. In a world of fiber-optic cables and instant messages, you remind us that connection once demanded a pounding heartbeat, a horse's straining muscles, a rider's unyielding will. Your hoofprints are more than marks in the earth. They are a map of the human spirit, a testament to what we can achieve when we dare to race the impossible. You'd stand in the quiet of a prairie dusk, the same dusk you once rode through, and feel the weight of your legacy, not in bronze or ink, but in the enduring truth that you, the Pony Express rider, carried a nation's dreams on your back, galloping into history with a heart as vast as the West itself. You'd smile, knowing you were part of something extraordinary. A fleeting moment when humanity outran time, leaving a trail of courage no wire, no rail, no fading memory could ever erase. The history of ancient brewing. You stand in the dusty heart of a Sumerian village, thousands of years ago, long before Rome's marble columns or the pyramid's stone gaze over the Nile. The air hums with the clink of clay pots, the rhythmic grind of stone mills, and the faint sweetness of fermenting barley. You're in ancient Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians, with calloused hands and reverent hearts, craft beer in ways both humble and divine. You don't find beer in frosted mugs or sleek bottles. You cradle a warm clay jar, its rough surface grounding you to this cradle of civilization. Beer isn't a drink here, it's your daily bread, your coin for trade, your offering to the gods, a shimmering thread in the fabric of existence. You wander through the village at dawn, the horizon glowing pink over mud brick homes. You hear women laugh as they knead barley dough, their hands dusted with flour, shaping papier, a dense bread laced with honey from desert hives or dates from nearby groves. You smell the earthy tang of fermenting jars, lined up in courtyards shaded by woven palm fronds. You see children dart between houses, their bare feet kicking up dust, while elders sit in the shade, sipping beer from clay cups, spinning tales of gods and harvests. You marvel that humanity's oldest written recipe, etched on clay tablets around 1800 BCE, isn't for soup or bread, but for beer. These tablets, bearing the hymn to Ninkasi, sing to you of the goddess of brewing, her verses blending worship with instructions as poetic as the Tigris's flow. The extraordinary story. Ninkasi isn't a distant deity. She's a living presence, her spirit summoned with every batch you brew. You join a ritual at dusk, chanting her hymn under starlit skies, your voice mingling with others as you stir vats with wooden paddles. You approach brewing as a sacred dance, soaking barley in reed baskets, spreading it to sprout in cool corners, then baking it into batter. You crumble this bread into water-all jars, stirring as the mixture ferments, transforming into a thick, cloudy brew under the Mesopotamian sun. This isn't the crisp lager of modern times. It's a hearty gruel, low in alcohol but rich in sustenance, its earthy tang a reminder of the land's bounty. You taste it, noting its gritty texture, its subtle sweetness, and you feel it nourish your body and soul. Water in your world is a gamble, tainted by unseen threats from rivers or wells, but beer, through fermentation's alchemy, is safe, its process a mystery you attribute to Ninkasi's touch. Packed with calories and nutrients, it's your dietary cornerstone. Whether you're a labourer hauling mud bricks for a ziggurat, a priest chanting in its shadowed halls, or a noble overseeing fields of barley. If you toil on temple walls or dig irrigation channels through the earth, you're paid in beer, sometimes gallons daily, its weight a tangible reward for your sweat. You carry a jar to your worksite, its coolness a brief shield against the heat, each sip a burst of energy to lift another brick. You don't drink alone, you gather with others around wide ceramic vessels, dipping long reed straws to filter out gritty sediment. You sit in a circle, your straw brushing against your neighbour's, the shared pot a silent vow of togetherness. You hear disputes settled over these jars, beer a mediator in your village's tensions. You attend a feast where beer flows freely, sealing bonds between families, its froth a symbol of unity. These moments aren't about intoxication, they're about weaving bonds, ensuring survival and honouring the divine. Beer defines your Sumerian soul, flowing through your rituals, laws, fields, and markets. It's liquid civilization, a daily necessity and a holy act, setting the stage for brewing cultures from the Tigris to the Nile and beyond. You explore the brewing process deeper, learning its intricacies. You soak barley in woven baskets, watching it swell with water from the Euphrates. You spread it in shaded courtyards, letting it sprout, its green tips a promise of fermentation. You bake bapia with care, adding dates for sweetness or coriander for a faint spice, each batch a unique creation. You stir vats with wooden paddles, noting the yeast's invisible work, a mystery you honour without understanding. You experiment with herbs, tasting how each alters the brew's soul, your skill a blend of art and intuition passed from mother to daughter. You store jars in cool pits, timing fermentation to the desert's rhythm, your craft a quiet science in a world without microscopes. If the Sumerians birthed beer's sacred spark, you'd find the Egyptians fanning it into a roaring flame. You travel to the Nile's fertile banks, where the old kingdom rises, its temples and palaces gleaming under the sun. Beer transcends its sacred roots to become the pulse of your society, woven into meals, offerings, and the journey to eternity. You step into a temple brewery, its scale overwhelming vats as tall as you, workers chanting to Osiris, god of agriculture and fertility. The air is heavy with the aroma of baking bread and fermenting grain, and you watch workers move with purpose, crumbling half-baked loaves of emmer wheat or barley into vats, their arms glistening with sweat. You smell dates, freshly plucked from palm groves, their sticky sweetness stirred into the mix, promising a brew as rich as the Nile's silt. You learn the Egyptian craft, a refined echo of Sumerian ways. You bake bread lightly, its crust barely formed, then crumble it into water-filled vats. You add honey or dates, stirring with reverence, letting the mixture ferment in jars kissed by the desert's heat. The beer you taste is thick, unfiltered, so nutritious you scoop it with a spoon, its sweetness lingering like a prayer. You visit necropolises, their walls alive with murals of brewing women, their hands outstretched as if offering beer to eternity. You find tombs packed with beer jars, nestled beside bread and meat, ensuring no soul faces the afterlife without this sacred drink. You trace hieroglyphs, listing offerings, each jar a prayer etched in clay, each recipe a map to the stars. You feel the Nile's pulse in every brew, its waters the source of both grain and beer. A sacred offering to Hathor, goddess of joy and intoxication. Beer fuels your labour. If you haul stones for the pyramids, you're not a slave but a paid worker, and your wages include beer, up to 4 litres daily. You carry a jar to the worksite, its weight a reminder of your worth. You drink under the pyramid's shadow, its coolness a shield against the sun, each sip a burst of energy to lift another block. You hear a scholar call it Egypt's ancient energy drink, and you nod, feeling its strength in your bones. You see the State Guard production with an iron grip, officials inspecting vats, scribes noting taxes on papyrus, and distributors mapping routes to labour camps. You pay taxes in barley or beer, knowing its quality is sacred law, its distribution a web connecting villages to cities. As a woman, perhaps a priestess, you brew, tying your craft to divine duty. You enter temple breweries, their sanctity your second home, mixing sacred batches for offerings. You chant to Hathor, your hands steady as you pour beer into ceremonial jars, your work a prayer. You feel the community's gaze, their respect a crown for your skill. You teach your daughter the craft, passing recipes like heirlooms, each jar a testament to your lineage. Beer isn't a footnote in Egypt, it's central, nourishing your body, pleasing your gods and filling your tombs. Like the Nile's ceaseless flow, it courses through your life, a constant in a world of sand and stone. You see beer as divine communion across your world. You invite its frothy spirit into temples, funerals, and festivals, viewing fermentation as a mystical gift, grain reborn as sacred liquid. Brewing is your dialogue with the divine. Drinking is your share in eternity. In Sumer, you chant Ninkasi's hymn, a prayer recipe guiding your vats. You pour her beer for priests or gods, each act a bridge to the cosmos. You join village rituals, offering beer to the earth, its foam soaking into the soil, as a gift to the harvest gods. You feel Ninkasi's presence in the bubbles, her wisdom in every sip. You stand in the sacred precincts of an Egyptian temple, where the air is thick with the scent of fermenting grain and the faint crackle of fires beneath brewing vats. You brew vast quantities of beer for offerings, clay jars stacked like silent soldiers at dawn, their smooth curves catching the first golden rays over the Nile. You run your fingers over their cool surfaces, each jar a promise to the gods, filled with the thick, sweet brew you've crafted. You join the festival of drunkenness, dancing under flickering torchlight that casts shadows on sandstone walls, as red beer flows in rivers, its hue mimicking blood in a ritual reenacting Sekhmet's myth, her lion-headed wrath soothed by this divine brew, saving humanity through your sacred act. You feel the drumbeat in your chest, your feet moving to ancient rhythms, the beer's tang on your lips, a communion with the divine. As a priestess, you craft ritual brews, your role etched in stone reliefs that will outlast you, your hands steady as you pour, for Hathor, goddess of joy and music, or Osiris, lord of eternity and rebirth. You stand before their altars, the air heavy with incense. Your offerings a bridge between earth and sky. You see beer in tombs, its jars sustaining souls on their journey to the afterlife. Their clay inscribed with prayers you carve yourself with a reed stylus, listing offerings beside hymns, believing each vessel guides the dead to the stars. You kneel in the dim light of a necropolis, the weight of eternity in your hands, feeling beer's divine power, its fermentation a mirror of creation itself, a gift from gods who shape the cosmos with breath and clay. You feast at harvest festivals, where tables groan under the weight of bread, fruit, and beer, the air alive with laughter and song. Beer blurs the line between earth and sky, each sip a hymn to divine connection, its warmth a pulse in your veins, binding you to the land's bounty. You drink at solstice celebrations, gathered under starlit skies, the beer's heat countering the desert's chill, its froth a symbol of life's renewal, bubbling like the Nile's hidden source. You join funerals, your hands trembling as you pour beer into the earth, its foam sinking into the soil to nourish departed souls, your craft a bridge to the afterlife. You see echoes of this in later cultures, Hebrews offering beer in fertility rites under desert moons, Hittites pouring it for earth gods in mountain shrines, its sacred role enduring as wine claims leat altars, leaving beer to the heart of the people. You drink to align with nature's rhythms, gods, harvests, life, death, each sip a cycle of eternity, its taste a reminder of the earth's pulse. You hear scholars, their voices carried across millennia, claim beer sparked your civilization, its grains driving your fields, its safety shaping your settlements in a world of shifting sands. You ponder barley's harvest, its golden stalks swaying in Sumerian fields, its sugars the key to beer, your villages born of this primal thirst. In Sumer, you grind grain with stone querns, your arms aching as you turn the heavy wheels, dust rising like a prayer. You brew in clay vats, their surfaces etched with your fingerprints, and store them in cool cellars dug deep to escape the sun's fire, knowing beer's safety in arid lands where rivers turn brackish and wells falter. You craft tools, clay sieves woven with river reeds, wooden paddles smoothed by years of use, stone hearths that glow with the heat of your fires, your ingenuity a quiet science, honed without measures or microscopes. You time fermentation in shaded pits, noting how coolness preserves the brew's soul, its bubbles a mystery you attribute to divine breath. You watch them rise, each one a spark of Ninkasi's touch, each batch a testament to your bond with the earth. You teach this craft to others, your hands guiding theirs as you show them how to knead bapir, how to stir vats with care, your wisdom a legacy etched in every jar. You stand in the courtyard, the desert breeze carrying the scent of your brew, your skill a dance with nature's rhythms, a sacred rhythm pulsing through time, connecting you to the gods and the land that sustains you. In Uruk or Babylon, you brew in temple yards, earning rations as a worker, soldier, or scribe. You pay taxes in grain or beer, your jars as vital as silver. You trade beer across deserts, carrying jars to Levantine ports, bartering for cedar or lapis lazuli. You find beer-filled vessels in distant trade sites, proof of its value from Mesopotamia to Nubia. Beer builds your world, fueling laborers, sustaining rituals, linking cities. Its froth a foundation for empires. You find women at the heart of brewing, their art sacred, passed down like song. In Sumer, your Ninkasi's daughter, brewing in clay, your hands shaping civilization's drink. You teach your daughter the craft, her small hands learning to knead bapir, her eyes wide with wonder. In Egypt, you mix vats at home, temple, market, your hands holy as you pour for gods. You oversee temple breweries, your role revered, your skill a badge of honor. You see your image in tomb art, your hands outstretched, offering beer to eternity. You feel your legacy in medieval Europe, where alewives brew and sell ale, their tall hats a nod to your market days, later twisted into witch lore. In your world, you with a brewpot are revered, feeding gods and mortals one bubbling jar at a time. Your brewery is a craft honed over generations, blending observation, experiment, and nature's wisdom. You use barley or emmer wheat, chosen for their fermentable sugars. You malt grains, soaking them in river water, spreading them to sprout in shaded courtyards. You bake bapir, crumbling it into vats, stirring with paddles worn smooth by your hands. You note the yeast's work. Its bubbles a mystery you honor without naming. You flavor with dates, honey, coriander, or mint, each batch a unique song. You sip thick brews, sometimes through straws to avoid sediment, sometimes as a meal, its richness sustaining you through long days. You time brewing in the desert's heat, storing jars in cool pits, your skill a hymn to time and transformation. Beer grows to currency, your economy's pulse. You earn it as a worker, its quantity tied to your rank, coarse brews for labourers, finer ones for scribes. You trade it in markets, swapping jars for wool, pottery, or oil. You pay taxes in beer, its jars tracked by scribes on cuneiform tablets, their precision shaping your bureaucracy. You see breweries attached to temples, estates, employing grain collectors, millers, bakers, transporters. You watch beer travel trade routes, its jars sealed with wax, carried to distant lands. From Sumer's vats to Nubia's shores, you see beer's reach, sustaining your world as both daily fuel and state infrastructure. Beer mirrors your society's hierarchy. As a labourer, you sip thick, gritty brews, their heft sustaining you through toil. As a noble, you savour lighter, filtered beers, their golden hue gleaming in goblets under palm fronds. You offer fine beer at feasts, its quality a sign of wealth, its absence an insult. You see pharaohs receive beer offerings daily, their power reflected in each jar. You note village women brew humbly, while temple brewers, sometimes salaried, craft politically vital batches. Beer is universal, but its taste and meaning shift with who you are. Fuel for some, divine refinement for others, each jar a quiet signature of status. You stand in the present, yet your soul is tethered to an ancient rhythm, the pulse of brewing that thrums through the ages, a legacy woven into the very fabric of human existence. Your senses awaken to the echo of your craft, a primal alchemy of grain, water, and time that lingers in every modern brewery, every village pot, every raised glass. You are not merely a brewer of today, but a descendant of those who stirred vats under starlit skies, who chanted to goddesses of grain, who turned earth's raw gifts into sustenance, community, and divinity. Your hands, though clean of ancient dust, still carry the weight of their labour. Your heart still beats with their reverence. In craft breweries, where stainless steel vats gleam under soft humming lights, you see your shadow flicker. Brewers move with quiet precision, malting barley, crushing grains, and dosing hops in a dance that mirrors your own millennia ago. Their tools are sleek, their methods refined, yet the essence remains unchanged. The careful weighing of kernels, each one a promise of communion, a seed of connection. You recall sifting barley in Sumerian courtyards, your fingers sorting through golden heaps under the watchful gaze of Ninkasi, goddess of beer. The air was thick with dust and heat, your tunic damp with sweat, yet each grain felt sacred, a spark of life to be transformed. Today's brewers, with their digital thermometers and lab-grown yeast, echo your intuition, your trial and error, your quiet faith that water and grain could become more than the sum of their parts. You smell the yeast's sharp tang, a scent that transcends time, curling through the brewery as it once did in your clay jars under Mesopotamian stars. Each bubble rising in their fermenters is a whisper of your wisdom, each pint poured a testament to your enduring craft. You journey to Ethiopia, to sun-dappled villages where women gather around clay pots, their hands deftly mixing honey and gesho leaves to brew tej, a honey wine that hums with life. Their laughter rises with the steam, a melody that binds them to each other and to you, across continents and centuries. You sit among them, unseen yet present, watching as they stir with wooden spoons worn smooth by generations. Their movements a ritual unchanged since your own hearth glowed with embers. The pots they use could have graced your fireside, their curves kissed by flame, their clay etched with the memory of countless brews. You taste their tej, sweet and effervescent, its warmth flooding your senses with echoes of the Nile's banks, the Tigris's flow, where you once shared beer through reed straws, your laughter mingling with friends and strangers alike. These women are your sisters, their craft a mirror of yours, their gatherings a continuation of the communal fires you tended. Mother to daughter, hand to hand, they carry your legacy, brewing not just a drink but a bond that outlasts empires, a thread of joy and resilience woven through time. You wander through global festivals, from the raucous tents of Oktoberfest where thousands raise steins in a thunderous toast, to quiet village harvest feasts where elders pass jars under the glow of lanterns. Beer unites them, as your clay pots once did, each clink a vow of shared humanity, each sip a story of fields, fires, and the hands that shaped them. At Oktoberfest, the air is thick with malt and sweat. The crowds roar a modern hymn to the earth's bound. You feel their pulse. Their voice is a chorus that spans millennia, from Sumerian prayers chanted over vats to Viking skalds singing of mead halls, from Egyptian libations poured for Hathor to pub songs belted in smoky taverns. In quieter corners, at harvest feasts in remote hamlets, you see families gathered, their faces lit by firelight, their jars filled with home-brewed ale, cloudy and sharp. The elders speak of the year's yield, of rains that came or failed, their words echoing your own as you once stood in desert groves, offering beer to the gods for a bountiful crop. Beer is the constant, its froth a symbol of life's cycle, seed to harvest, labour to rest, birth to death, and back again. You raise a glass among them, your heart swelling with the timelessness of it all, each bubble a star in the vast constellation of human connection. You delve into the world of bioarchaeology, where scientists wield tools you could never have imagined, mass spectrometers, DNA sequencers, to resurrect your recipes from the residues in ancient jars. You stand in their labs, a silent witness as they analyze flecks of barley, traces of date, fragments of yeast preserved in clay. With reverence they recreate your brews, their hands trembling as they pour the first sips, their eyes widening at the taste of your world. You watch them sample a beer crafted from an Egyptian tomb recipe, its thick, sweet tang a portal to the past. The flavour floods you with memories. Hathor's laughter echoing in torch-lit temples, Osiris's quiet gaze as you poured offerings, workers steeping under pyramid shadows, their faces streaked with dust and gratitude. Each bubble in their glass is a bridge across millennia. Each note of malt or fruit a whisper of your Nile-soaked fields, your desert groves, your hands kneading bapir with flour-dusted fingers. You close your eyes, and the brew carries you back, to marketplaces where you bartered beer for cloth, to festivals where you danced under star-strewn skies, to quiet moments when you stirred vats alone, your chants to Ninkasi, a prayer for abundance. Beer was never just a drink, it was divinity itself, a liquid hymn to the gods, a currency of trust, a balm for weary souls. You know, civilization rose not on stone or conquest alone, but in the quiet sanctuaries of your kitchens and breweries, where you, woman, worker, worshipper, worshipped your alchemy of grain and water. You were the architect of community, the keeper of culture, the priestess of sustenance. In Sumer, you kneaded bapir, your hands caked with dough, your chants to Ninkasi rising with the steam. In Egypt you poured beer for Osiris, in halls aglow with lotus columns, your offerings sinking into the soil as gifts to the eternal. In Mesopotamia you stirred vats in courtyards bustling with scribes and traders, your brews fueling the world's first cities. Your work was no mere task, it was creation itself, turning raw earth into economy, ritual and art. You feel the weight of this legacy in every jar you stirred, every hymn you sang, every sip shared under flickering flames. You see your reflection in every brewer today. From the craft brewery artisan tweaking recipes to the village elder teaching her granddaughter to brew. Their passion is a spark from your ancient fires, their ingenuity a seed you planted long ago. Raising a glass in a bustling pub, you hear the ancient communal spirit in every clink, a chorus of voices stretching from Uruk's dusty streets to Thebes' golden temples, from cuneiform tablets tallying barley to smartphones snapping photos of frothy pints. The foam rises, its bubbles catching light like stars over the Tigris, each one a moment preserved. Your hands stirring vats, your voice chanting hymns, your heart beating in rhythm with the earth. You join a ritual brewed over millennia, sipping beer that carries you through time, past reed straws dipped in communal pots, past festivals under desert skies, past the quiet reverence of tomb offerings, to this moment where humanity's oldest craft endures. You taste the barley, the honey, the herbs, each flavour a story of labour and land, of joy and loss, of gods and mortals. You stand as both heir and ancestor, your glass a vessel of memory, its warmth the pulse of countless generations. You toast to the gods, Ninkasi, Hathor, Osiris, to the earth that yields, to the brewers who came before, and those yet to come. Your voice joins a timeless bond, a song of grain and water, of fire and fellowship, forever fermenting in the heart of the world.